Beware, you're in for a scare.
Oh God! Oh no! Oh, it's horrible. Don't cover this face up. No, we wanted a storybook. We wanted a horror book. We didn't want this. Look at this monstrosity here. Hello, Queen. Right. So, R.L Stine. He wrote a series of books called Goosebumps. You may be aware of them. Evening, Tiggy. This one is entitled Attack of the Mutants, which was requested of me. So I went to the internet and bought it. You may have seen me unbox it many a moon ago. Anyway, I think without further ado, we should get stuck in and read the book. Yeah. So, Attack of the Mutant by R.L Stine. Or as is better known, R.L Stine. Right, so do we need to read the barcode? I think we can get the gist of that. If anyone was wondering, it's 9780590483551 50325. And there we go. We've learned something about this book today. Oh, it's an Apple paperback as well. How fascinating. Alright, let's go over it. Oh, they don't waste any time. Straight in with chapter 1. Look, no build up, nothing. Just poof, go. I haven't read this book before, so this is going to be fun. But then again, I never read the Cuckoo Clock of Doom before either, and that went well. So let's go. Let's stop beating around the bush. So, chapter 1. And yes, I'm going to mispronounce it every single time, just to annoy and confuse. Chapter 1. Hey, put that down. I grabbed the comic book from Wilson Clark's hand and smoothed out the plastic cover. I was only looking at it, he grumbled. If you get a fingerprint on it, I will lose half of its value, I told him. I examined the cover through the clear wrapper. This is a Silver Swan number 0, I said, and it's in mint condition. Wilson shook his head. He has curly, white blonde hair and round blue eyes. He always looks confused. How can it be number 0, he asked. That doesn't make any sense, Skipper. Wilson is a really good friend of mine, but sometimes I think he dropped down from the planet Mars. He just doesn't know anything. I held up the Silver Swan cover so he could see the big 0 in the corner. That makes it a collector's item, I explained. Number 0 comes before number 1. This comic is worth 10 times as much as Silver Swan number 1. According to who? eBay? Don't trust their prices. The scabbers on there. Huh, is it? Wilson scratches his curly hair. He squatted down on the floor and started pouring through my carton of comic books. How come all your comics are in these plastic bags, Skipper? How can you read them? See, I told you. Wilson doesn't know anything. Read them? I don't read them, I replied. If you read them, they lose their value. They do. Oh, shit. Right, this is cancelled. I want the money. Do you exist in this game? I don't know. Deal custom Silver Swan. Oh, have a think. Oh, yes. He stared up at me. You don't read them? If I can't take them out of the bag, I explained. If I open the bag, they won't be in mint condition anymore. Oh, this one is cool, he exclaimed. He pulled out a copy of Star Wolf. He's from Star Fox. The cover is metal. It's worthless, I mumbled. It's a second printing. He stared at the silvery cover, turning it in his hands, making it shine in the light. Cool, he muttered, his favourite word. It's a good word. They were up in my room about an hour after dinner. The sky was black outside my double windows. It gets dark so early in winter. Not like on the Silver Swan's planet, Orcus Free, where the sun never sets and all the superheroes have to wear air-conditioned costumes. What did they wear before that? Yes, make it happen. Wilson came over to get the math homework. He lives next door. He always leaves his math book at the school, so he always comes over to get the homework from me. You should collect comic books, I told him. In about 20 years, this will be worth millions. I'll collect rubber stamps, he said, picking up a Z Squad annual. That's a real thing, Z Squad. Yeah. He studied the sneaker ad on the back cover. Rubber stamps? Yes, have about 100 of them, he said. What can you do with rubber stamps, I asked. I don't know why I've given him a list now, but let's just roll with it. He dropped the comic book onto the carton and stood up. Why, you can stamp things with them, he said, brushing off the knees of his jeans. I have different coloured ink pads, or you can just look at them. He is definitely weird. Are they variable? I asked. He shook his head. I don't think so. He picked up the math sheet from the foot of my bed. I'd better get home, Skipper. See you tomorrow. He started for the door, and I followed him. Immersion. Our reflection stared at us from my big dresser mirror. My mirror. Wilson is so tall and skinny and blonde and blue-eyed. I always feel like a dark, chubby mole next to him. When we were in the book, Wilson would be the superhero, and I would be his sidekick. I'd be the pudgy, funny one who was always messing up. I can get on board with that. It's a good thing life isn't a comic book, right? Right. As soon as Wilson left, I turned my back to my dresser. My eye caught the big computer banner above the mirror. Skipper Matthews, Alien Avenger. My dad had someone at his office print out the banner for me for my 12th birthday a few weeks ago. Beneath the banner, I have two great posters tacked on the wall on both sides of the dresser. One is a Jack Kirby Captain America. Ooh, I know what that is. It's really old and probably worth about $1,000. The other one is newer, a Spawn poster by Todd McFarlane. Are they allowed to name drop all the real actors in here? I know who Todd McFarlane is because I used to get confused with Steph McFarlane, who's very, very different. In the mirror, I could see the excited look on his own face as I hurried to the dresser. The flat brown envelope waited for me on the dresser top. Mum and Dad said I couldn't open it until after dinner, until I finished my homework, but I couldn't wait. I could feel my heart start to pound as I stared down at the envelope. I knew what waited inside. Just thinking about it made my heart pound even harder. Ow. I carefully picked up the envelope. I had to open it. Now, I had to. Chapter 2. Carefully, I tore the flap on the envelope. Then I reached inside and pulled out the treasure. This month's issue of the Masked Mutant. Holding the comic book in both hands, I studied the cover. The Masked Mutant number 24 in jagged red letters across the bottom. I read, a tight squeeze for the bottom. A tight squeeze for the sensational sponge. This book's brilliant. 10 out of 10. I'm going to read that again. A tight squeeze for the sensational sponge. The art cover was awesome. It showed sponge life. And across the universe, it's a sponge of steel. Is this treading some copyright infringing waters, I guess? Sponge life, come on. He was caught in the tentacles of a giant octopus. The octopus was squeezing him dry. I'm only on chapter 2. Awesome. Totally awesome. Yeah, for him it was. I keep all my comic books in mint condition, wrapped in collector's bags, but there is one comic that I have to read every month, and that's the Masked Mutant. I have to read it as soon as it comes out. And there's going to be an awful lot of oohing in this, isn't there? I read it cover to cover, every word in every panel. I even read the letters page. That's because the Masked Mutant is the best drawn, best written comic in the world, and the Masked Mutant has to be the most powerful, most evil villain ever created. Jury's out on that. What makes him so terrifying is that he can move his molecules around. That means he can change himself to anything that's solid. Anything. I know, right? On this cover, the giant octopus is actually the Masked Mutant. You can tell because the octopus is wearing the mask that the Masked Mutant always wears. But can he change himself to any animal or any object? I don't like where this is going. He's already got his tentacles at sponge life. This is just rule 34 of the book, isn't it? That's how he always escapes from the League of Good Guys. The League of Good Guys. Jesus Christ. Fine. There are 6 different superheroes in the League of Good Guys. They are all mutants. Didn't they say this was really well written? They called it the League of Good Guys. I'm sorry. Yes. They are the world's best law enforcers, but they can't catch the Masked Mutant, and they're not the best, are they? Even the League's leader, the Galloping Gazelle, the fastest man in the solar system, isn't fast enough to keep up with the Masked Mutant. I studied the cover for a few minutes. I like the way the octopus tentacles squeeze Sponge Life into a limp rag. I'm watching you. You could see this expression that the sponge of steel was in mortal pain. Awesome. It's not awesome. I carried the comic over to my bed and sprawled over my stomach to read it. The story began where the Masked Mutant number 23 left off, so I should hope it would. Sponge Life, the world's most underwater swimmer. The world's best underwater swimmer. The world's most underwater swimmer. I'll forget it. Was deep in the ocean. He was desperately trying to escape from the Masked Mutant, but the sponge of steel had caught his cape on the edge of a coral reef. No capes! I turned the page. As the Masked Mutant drew nearer, he began to move his molecules around, and he changed himself into a huge, really gross octopus. I thought he was a really gross, huge octopus. Okay. There were 8 drawings showing the Masked Mutant transform himself. And then came a big full-page drawing showing the enormous octopus reaching out its slimy, fat tentacles to grab this helpless Sponge Life. Sponge Life struggled to pull away, but the octopus tentacles slid closer. Closer! I started to turn the page, but before I could move, I felt something cold and slimy wrap itself around my neck. I'm really glad these streams are rated 18+, because Jesus Christ. Chapter 3. I let out a gasp and struggled to struggle free, but the cold tentacles wrapped themselves tighter around my throat. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I heard laughter. With great effort, I turned around and saw Mitzi, my 9-year-old sister. Is this just ripping off the Cuckoo Cock of Doom? I had a pain in the ass little sister. She pulled her hands away from my neck and jumped back as I glared at her. Why are your hands so cold? I demanded. She smiled at me with her innocent, dimpled smile.
I put them in the refrigerator.
Sorry, if I did the deep voice for the little girl in the last book, I'm sure as fuck doing it for this one as well. You what? I cried. You put them in the refrigerator? Why?
So they'd be cold,
she replied, still grinning. My sister has a really dumb sense of humour. She has straight, dark brown hair like me, and she's short and a little chubby like me. You scared me to death, I told her, sitting up on the bed.
I know,
she replied. She rubbed her hands on my cheeks. They were still cold. Yeah, get away from me, Mitzi. I shoved her back. Why did you come up here? Just to scare me? She shook her head.
Dad told me to come up. He said to tell you if you were reading comic books instead of doing your homework, you're in big trouble.
She lowered her brown eyes to the comic book, open on the bed.
Guess you're in big trouble, Skipper.
No, wait, I grabbed her arm. This is the new Masked Mutant. I have to read it. Tell Dad I'm doing my math and... I didn't finish what I was saying because my dad stepped into the room. The ceiling light reflected in his glasses, but I could still see that he had his eyes on the open comic book on my bed. Skipper, he said, angrily in his booming deep voice. Mitzi pushed past him and ran out the room. She liked to cause trouble, but she never wanted to stay around once things got really ugly. And I knew things were about to get ugly, because I had already been warned 3 times that week about spending too much time with my comic book collection. Skipper, do you know why your grades are so bad? My dad bellowed. Because I'm not a very good student, I replied. A mistake. Dad hates it when I answer that. Dad reminds me of a big bear. Right, we've had hentai shit, and now we're getting to bear territory. Maybe. I'm good, thanks, man. Cheers, I hope you're well as well. My dad reminds me of a big bear. Not only because he growls a lot, but because he is big and broad. He has short black hair and almost no forehead. Really, his hair starts almost right above his glasses, and he has a big booming roar of a voice, like a bear's roar. Well, after I answered him back, he let out an angry roar. He lumbered across the room, picked up my carton of comic books, my entire collection. Sorry, Skipper, I'm tossing these all out, he cried, and headed for the door. Chapter 4. You're probably expecting me to panic, to start begging and pleading for him to not throw away my valuable collection, but I didn't say anything. I just stood aside the bed with my hands lowered at my sides and waited. You see, Dad has done this before, lots of times, but he doesn't really mean it. He has a bad temper, but he's no supervillain. Actually, I put him in a league of good guys most of the time. His main problem is that he doesn't approve of comic books. He thinks they're just trash. Even when I explain that my collection will probably be worth millions by the time I'm his age. Anyway, I stood there and waited silently. Oh, man. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, because you work at a petrol station, don't you? Yeah. Sorry, man. Well, it's over now. It'll probably be worse tomorrow, but let's not think about it. Anyway, I stood there and waited silently. Dad stopped at the door and turned around. He held the carton in both eyes. He narrowed his dark eyes at me through his black framed glasses. I don't have glasses, I'm sorry. Are you going to get to your work? He asked sternly. I nodded. Yes, sir, I muttered, staring at my feet. He lowered the carton a little. It's really heavy, even for a big, strong guy like him. And you won't waste any more time tonight on comic books, he demanded. Couldn't I just finish this new one? I asked. I pointed to the Masked Mutant comic on the bed. Another mistake. He growled at me and turned to carry the carton away. Okay, I cried. Sorry, I'll get my homework done, Dad. I promise. I'll start right now. He grunted and stepped back into the room. Then he dropped the carton back against the wall. That's all you think about night and day, Skipper, he said quietly. Comics. It isn't healthy, really. It isn't. I didn't say anything. I knew it was all about to go back downstairs. I don't want to hear any more about comics, Dad said gruffly. Understand? Okay, I murmured. Sorry, Dad. I waited to hear his heavy footsteps going down the stairs, then I turned back to the new issue of the Masked Mutant. I was desperate to find out how Sponge Life escaped from the giant octopus. But I could hear Mitzi nearby. She was still upstairs. If she saw me reading the comic book, she'd run downstairs and tell Dad for sure. Mitzi's hobby is being a snitch. So I opened my backpack and started pulling out my math notebook and my science textbooks and other stuff I needed. I zipped through the math questions as fast as I could. I probably got most of the problems wrong, but it doesn't matter. I'm not any good at math anyway. Maths, plural. There's more than one math. Then I read the chapter on atoms and molecules in my science text. Reading about the molecules made me think about the Masked Mutant. Oh God, he's not got a one-track mind, isn't he? Jesus. I couldn't wait to get back to the comic book. I finally finished my homework a little after 9:30. I had to skip a few essay questions on the literature homework, but only the class brains answer all of the questions. I went downstairs and picked myself a bowl of frosted flakes, my favourite late-night snack. I like those. Then I said goodnight to my parents and hurried back to my room, closing the door behind me, eager to get back in bed and start reading. Back under the ocean, Sponge Life escapes by squishing himself so small he slipped out of the octopus tentacles. Pretty cool, I thought. Whew. Swan number 10. Yeah. God damn. Wow, that's nuts, man. Well, you survived. You're made of stern stuff, sir. You're made of sterner stuff than Sponge Life here. The Masked Mutant waved his tentacles angrily and vowed he'd get Sponge Life another day. Then he changed his molecules back so he looked like himself, and then drowned because he was underwater, and flew back to his headquarters. His headquarters? I stared down the comic book in shock. The secret headquarters of the Masked Mutant had never been shown before. Oh sure, we've been given glimpses of a room or two on the inside, but this was the first time the building had ever been shown from the outside. I brought the page up closely to my face and examined it carefully, and then it went blurry because the page is too close. What a weird place, I exclaimed out loud. The headquarters building didn't look like any building I'd ever seen before. It certainly didn't look like the secret hideout of the world's worst villain. It kind of looked like a giant fire hydrant. A very tall fire hydrant that reached up to the sky, all pink stucco with a huge green dome roof. It's not describing what I think it's describing, is it? Yes. Yep, that's it. It's looking that way. Well, of course, it was the perfect hiding place. Who would ever think that the super bad guy of all time stayed in the building that looked like an enormous pink fire hydrant? This is making it not easy. This is not easy to read, guys. We've got bears, we've got hentai, and now this. This is for children, right? Jesus. I turned the page. The Masked Mutant slipped into the building and disappeared into an elevator. He rode all the way to the top and stepped out into his private communications center. Waiting for him there was a big surprise. A dark figure. We could only see his black silhouette, but I could tell instantly who it was. It was the Galloping Gazelle, leader of the League of Good Guys. Still a shit name. So, how did the Gazelle get in? That's a great line to read out loud. Question for chat. How did the Gazelle get in? What was he about to do? To be continued next month. Wow. I closed the comic. My eyelids felt heavy. My eyes were too tired to read the tiny type in the letters page. I decided to save that for tomorrow. Yawning, I carefully set the comic book down on my bed table. I fell asleep before my head hit the pillow. 2 days later, a very cold, clear day, Wilson came running up to me after school. His blue coat was unzipped. Eep. He never zipped his coat. He didn't like the way it looked when it was zipped. I had on a shirt, a sweater, and a heavy quilted downcoat, zipped up to my chin, and I was still cold. "What's up, Wilson?" I asked. His breath steamed up in front of him. "Want to come over and see my rubber stamp collection?" Was he kidding? "I have to go to my orthodontist," I told him. "My braces got uncomfortable. He has to tighten them so they'll hurt again." Okay, it's just a picture of a fire. It sounds like it, doesn't it? Except for means, does it? Wilson nodded. His blue eyes matched his coat. "How are you getting there?" I pointed to the bus stop. "City bus," I told him. "I suddenly take the bus quite a lot," he said. "There's a comic book store on Goodall Street," I replied, shifting my backpack onto the other shoulder. "I take the bus there once a week or so to see what new comics have come out. The orthodontist is just a few blocks from it." "Do they have rubber stamps at the comic book store?" Wilson asked. "I don't think so," I told him. I saw the blue and white city bus turn the corner. "Got to run. See you later," I called. I turned and ran full speed into the bus stop. The driver was a nice guy. He saw me running and waited for me. Breathing hard, I thanked him and climbed onto the bus. I probably wouldn't have thanked him if I had known where this bus was going to take me, but I didn't know that it was carrying me to the most frightening adventure of my life. Dun dun dun. Public transport. It's more horrifying than any horror story. Chippity Chapter 5. The bus was unusually clouded. I stood for a while. Then 2 people got off. Off the bus, you mean? I hope. I don't know, there's a lot of pink fire hydrants. 2 people got off and I slid into a seat. Onto the seat, not into the seat. This is getting worse. We got chair fucking now. As the bus bounced along Main Street, I stared out into the passing houses and front yards. Dark clouds hung low over the roofs. I wondered if we were about to get our first snowfall of the winter. The comic book store was a few blocks away. I checked my watch, thinking maybe I had time to stop there before my orthodontist appointment. But no. No time for comics today. How do you do, Franklin?" A girl's voice interrupted my voice. I turned to see that girl had taken the seat beside me. Her carrot-coloured hair was tied back in a single braid. She had green eyes and a light freckles on her nose. She wore a heavy She wore a heavy blue and red plaid sweater over faded jeans. She held a red canvas backpack in her lap. "Yeah, I'll go there," I replied. "How is it?" she asked. She now had the green eyes at me as if checking me out. "It's okay," I told her. "What's your name?" she asked. "Skipper," I told her. She snickered. "That's not a real name, is it?" "That's what everyone calls me," I said. I realise if I do that voice, it probably makes it hard to understand what the fuck I'm actually saying. So let's drop it. "Do you live on a boat or something?" she asked. Her eyes crinkled up. I could see she was laughing at me. I guess Skipper is kind of a dumb name, but I've gotten used to it. I like it a lot better than my real name, Bradley. "When I was a little kid, I was always in a hurry," I told her. "So I used to skip a lot. That's why they started calling me Skipper." "Cute," she replied with a smirk. Why don't I like this girl?" I told myself. "What's your name?" I asked her. "Skipper," she replied, grinning. "Same as yours." "No, really," I insisted. "It's Libby," she said finally. "Libby Zax." Wow, that sounds like the most 90s name in the world. Libby Zax is wacky, yo. She stared past me in the window. The bus stopped for a red light. "You don't have to put on a red light, Libby Zax." A baby started crying in the back. "Where are you going?" Libby asked me. "Home?" I didn't want to tell her I had an orthodontist appointment. That was too geeky. "I'm going to a comic book store," I said. "The one on Goodale." "You collect comics?" She sounded surprised. "So do I." It was my turn to be surprised. Most of the comic book collectors I know are boys. What kind of do you collect? I asked. High School Harry and Beanhead. What a name. High School Harry and Beanhead. I'd read that. Bradley. I collect all the digit-sized ones and some of the regular ones too. Ugh, I made a face. High School Harry and his pal Beanhead. Those comics stink. They do not. To be fair, they sound fucking dope. These are for the babies, I muttered. They're not real comics. So I'm reading chat and this is ruining me. They're very well written, Libby replied, and they're funny. She stuck her tongue out at Uni. Maybe you just don't get them. They've got to be better written than the mass get. Yeah, maybe, I said, rolling my eyes. I gazed out the window. The sky had grown darker. I didn't recognize any of the stores. I saw a restaurant called Pearls and a tiny barber shop. Have we passed the comic book store? Libby folded her hands over her red backpack. What do you collect? All that superhero junk? Yeah, I told her. My collection is worth about $1,000, maybe $2,000. In your dreams, she shot back. She laughed. Ha. High School Harry comics never go up in value, I informed her. Even the number ones are worthless. You can get $5 for your whole collection. Why would I want to sell them? She argued. I don't want to sell them. I don't care what they're worth. I just like to read them. Then you're not a real collector, I said. Oh, we're doing this, are we? Oh, I see. We're shaming people, are we? To the internet forums. Are all boys at Franklin like you? Libby asked. No, I'm the coolest one, I declared. We both laughed. Laugh. I still couldn't decide if I liked her or not. She was pretty cute looking, and she was funny in a nasty sort of way. Okay. I stopped laughing when I glanced out the window and realised I'd definitely passed my stop. I saw the bare trees of a small park I'd never seen before. The bus rumbled past it, and more unfamiliar stores came into view. I felt a sudden stab of panic in my chest. I didn't know this neighbourhood at all. I pushed the bell and jumped to my feet. What's your problem? Louis demanded. I stopped. I missed it, I stammered. She moved her legs into the aisle so I could squeeze past. The bus squealed to a stop. Squeak! I called out goodbye and hurried to the back door. Where am I? I asked myself, glancing around. Why did I make myself get into an argument with this girl? Why didn't I pay attention instead? Are you lost? A voice asked. I turned around and saw to my surprise that Libby had followed me off the bus. What are you doing here? I blurted out. It's my stop, she replied. I live 2 blocks down that way, she pointed. I have to go back, I said, turning to leave. And as I turned, something came into view that made my breath catch from my throat. Oh! I let out a startled cry and stared across the street. But that's impossible, I exclaimed. I was staring at a tall building on the other corner. A tall, pink stucco building with bright green dome roof. I was staring at the secret headquarters of the Masked Mutant. What do I collect tentacle stuff? You ain't wrong. I think going forward, every time there's a double entendre or something that could be misconstrued to be incredibly rude, which, frankly, is most of this, I think I'm just going to raise my eyebrows at the webcam and give a sort of knowing look, because we could be here all day. Right. But we're on to chapter 6. And my tea just brushed the microphone. Perfect. Chapter 6. Skipper, what's wrong? Libby cried. I couldn't answer her. I stared goggle-eyed at the building across the street. My mouth dropped open. My jaw nearly hit my knees. Visuals. They're a thing. I raised my eyes to the bright green roof. Then I slowly lowered them over the shiny pink walls. I have never seen colours like these in real life. They were comic book colours. It was a comic book building. Queen! Thank you. You legend, you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Cho Retro, game over, Achiever. You lucky sausages. Thank you so much. But here it was, standing on the corner across the street. Skipper, are you okay? Libby's voice sounded far away. It's real, I told myself. The secret headquarters building of the Masked Mutants is real. Or is it? 2 hands shook me by the shoulders, snapping me out of my amazed thoughts. Skipper, are you in shock or something? That building, I stammered. He says, Oh, thank you. Oh, I'll take it for the 100 bits. What's that? Hyde train is so close. One more sub of 100 bits of someone, we can get a hyde train going. Choo choo. Oh, nice. Thanks, guys. Isn't that the ugliest thing you ever saw? Libby asked, shaking her head. She pushed back her carrot-coloured braid and hiked her backpack onto her shoulder. But it's Monty Python's Flying Circus. No, it's this. I still couldn't speak. My dad says the architect had to be colourblind, Libby said. It doesn't even look like a building. It looks like a blimp standing there on its end. How long has it been there? I asked, my eyes studying the glass doors at the only entrance. Libby shrugged. I don't know. My family just moved here last spring. It was already here. The clouds darkened overhead. A cold wind swirled around the corner. Who do you think works in there? Libby asked. There's no sign of anything on the building. Of course there's no sign, I thought. It's the secret headquarters of the world's most evil villain. There's no way the Masked Mutant will put a sign out front. Oh, I've just got this image of the Masked Mutant just putting a wanted sign for the sidekick outside. He doesn't want the League of Good Guys to find his secret headquarters, I told myself. If you don't want it to be a secret headquarters, why did you make it bright pink and green? That's not very secret, is it? I turned and saw Libby staring at me. You sure you're okay? It's just a building, Skipper. No need to go ballistic. I could feel my face turning red. Libby must think I'm some kind of a nut, I realised. I think I saw this building somewhere, I tried to explain. I've got to get home, she said, glancing up at the darkening sky. Want to come over? I'll show you my comic book collection. No, I'm late for my orthodontist appointment, I replied. Huh? She narrowed her green eyes at me. You said you were going to a comic book store. I could feel my face turning even redder. I go to the comic book store after my appointment, I told her. How long have you had your braces, she asked. I groaned. Forever. She started backing away. Well, see you sometime. 2 minutes to get the hype train, guys. Choo choo. Just saying. It'll be on YouTube. It'll be marked down forever. She turned down and jogged down the street. She must think. Oh, come over, look at my comic book. She turned down and jogged down the street. She must think I'm a total geek, I thought unhappily. But I couldn't help it. I really was in shock. Seeing that building, I turned back to it. The top of the building had become hidden by the lowering clouds. Now the building looked like a sleek pink rocket ship reaching up to the clouds. A moving truck rumbled past. I waited for it to go by, then hurried across the street. There was no one on the sidewalk. I hadn't seen anyone go into the building or come out of it. It's just a big office building, I told myself. Nothing to get excited about. But my heart was pounding as I stopped a few feet from the glass doors at the entrance. I took a deep breath and peeked in. A big pink rocket ship, yes, I see what they're doing. I know it's crazy, but I really expected to see people wearing superhero costumes walking around in there. I narrowed my eyes and squinted through the glass doors. I couldn't see anyone. It was dark inside. I took a step closer. Then another. And I got too close to the camera and blurred everything. I brought my face right up to the glass and peered in. I could see a wide lobby. Pink and yellow walls. Okay. A row of elevators near the back, but no one. No people. No one. Empty. I grabbed the glass door handle. My throat made a loud gulping sound as I swallowed hard. Should I go in? I asked myself. Do I dare? 40 seconds for that hype train, guys. Come on. Chapter 7. My hand tightened on the glass door handle. I started to tug the heavy door open. Do not tug the pink rocket ship. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a blue and white bus moving towards me. I glanced at my watch. It was only 5 minutes late for my appointment. If I jumped on the bus, I could be at the orthodontist's office in a few minutes. Letting go of the handle, I turned and ran to the bus stop. My backpack bouncing on my shoulders. I felt disappointed, but I also felt relieved. Walking to the headquarters of the meanest mutant in the universe was a little scary. And that's before the pink rocket ship. The bus eased to a stop. I waited for an elderly man to step off, then I climbed on board, dropped my money into the box, and hurried to the back of the bus. I wanted to get one last look at the mysterious pink and green building. 2 women were sitting on the back seat, but I pushed between them and pressed my face against the back window. As the bus pulled away, I stared at the building. Its colours stayed bright. Even though the sky was so dark behind it, the sidewalk was empty. I still hadn't seen anyone come out or go inside. A few minutes later, the building disappeared into the distance. I turned away from the window and walked up to the aisle to find a seat. Weird, I thought. Totally weird. And it was the exact same building as in the comic book, Wilson asked. His blue eyes stared across the lunchroom table at me. I nodded. As soon as I got home yesterday afternoon, I checked out the comic book. The building was exactly the same. Wilson pulled a sandwich from his lunch bag and started to unwrap the foil. What kind of sandwich did your mum pack for you? He asked. I opened mine. Tuna salad. What's yours? He lifted a slice of bread and examined his sandwich. Tuna salad, he replied. Want to trade? We both have tuna salad, I told him. Why would you want to trade? He shrugged. I don't know. We traded sandwiches. His mum's tuna salad was better than mine. He pulled the juice box from my lunch bag. Then I tossed the apple in the trash. I kept telling Mum not to pack an apple. I told her I'd just throw it away every day. Why did you keep packing one? Can I have your pudding container? I asked Wilson. No, he replied. I finished the first half of the sandwich. I was thinking hard about the mysterious building. I've been thinking about it ever since I saw it. I solved the mystery, Wilson said in a different voice. He scratched his white blonde curls. A smile formed on his face. Yes, I've solved it. What? I demanded eagerly. It's simple, Wilson replied. Who draws the Masked Mutant? The artist? I asked. Jimmy Starenko? Of course. Starenko created the Masked Mutant and the League of Good Guys. How could Wilson not know that? It's hard to eat apples replacement. Yeah, I imagine it is. How could Wilson not know that? Well, I bet this guy Starenko is here one day, Wilson continued, jabbing the straw into the top of his juice box. Sharenko? Here? In Riverview Falls? I said. I wasn't following him. Wilson nodded. Let's say Sharenko is in here. He's driving down the street, and he sees the weird building. He stops his car. He gets out. He stares at the building and thinks, what a great building. This building would make a perfect secret headquarters building for the Masked Mutant. Wow, I see, I murmured. I was catching on to Wilson's thinking. You mean he saw the building, liked it, and copied it when he drew the headquarters building? Wilson nodded. He had a piece of celery stuck in his front teeth. Yes, maybe he got out the cards and sketched the buildings. Then he kept the sketches in a drawer or something till he needed them. It made sense. Actually, it made too much sense. I felt really disappointed. I knew it was not silly, but I really wanted that building to be the Masked Mutant secret headquarters. Wilson had spoiled everything. Why did he have to be sensible for once? I've got to get some new rubber stamps, he told me, finishing the last spoonful from his pudding container. Wants to see them? I could bring them over to your house after school. No thanks, I replied. That would be too exciting. I know, right? God damn. Bit of rubber. You'd love that, wouldn't you, you tart? I may be getting sidetracked. I planned to take the bus and see the building again that afternoon, but Miss Partridge gave up a ton of homework. I had to go straight home. The next day it snowed. Wilson and I had some other guys went sledding on Grover's Hill. Wilson! A week later, I finally had a chance to go back and take another look at the building. This time, I'm going inside, I told myself. There must be a receptionist or a guard, I decided. I'll ask whose building it is and who works there. I was feeling really brave as I climbed onto the bus after school. It was an ordinary office building, after all. Nothing to get excited about. Taking a seat at the front of the bus, I looked for Libby. The bus was filled with kids going home after school. Near the back, I saw a red-haired girl arguing with another girl, but it wasn't Libby. No sign of her. All right, Sim, calm down. I stared out the window as the bus rolled past the comic book store. Then, a few blocks later, we bounced past my orthodontist office. What, you literally bounced? Okay. Just seeing his building made my teeth ache. It was a sunny, clear afternoon. Bright sunlight kept filling the bus windows, forcing me to shield my eyes as I stared out. I had to keep careful watch because I wasn't sure where the stop was. I really didn't know this neighborhood at all. Kids were jammed in the aisle. You mean they were stuck in there? I've got this image of kids being literally taken into jam in the aisle. And that put a smile on my face. The kids were jammed in the aisle, so I couldn't see out the windows on the other side of the bus. I hope we haven't already passed the building, I thought. I had a heavy feeling in the pit of my stomach. I have a real fear of getting lost. My mum says that when I was 2, she lost me for a few minutes in the frozen food section at the Pick and Pay. I think I have a fear of getting lost ever since. This bus pulled up to a bus stop. I recognised a small park across the street. This was the stop. Getting off! I shouted, jumping into the aisle. I hit a boy in my backpack as I stumbled to the front door. Sorry, getting off, You're getting off and hitting a boy with your backpack, you sick fuck. I pushed through the crowd of kids and leaped down the steps, into the curb. The bus rumbled away. Sunlight streamed around me. I stepped to the corner. Yes, this is the right stop. I recognised it all now. I turned and raised my eyes to the strange building, and found myself staring at a large empty lot. The building was gone. Dun dun dun. I think I should have a little tea break before it gets a bit old. I can't contain the excitement, guys. I don't know about you. Still a little bit warm. I can do one more chapter before I have to finish it off. Getting off. Chapter 8. Whoa, I cried, frozen in shock, doing my really bad Keanu Reeves impression. Shielding my eyes with one hand, I stared across the street. How could that enormous building vanish in 1 week? I didn't have long to think about it. Another bus pulled up to the bus stop. Skipper, hey, Skipper! Libby loved off the bus, waving and calling my name. She was wearing the same red and blue ski sweater and faded jeans, torn up one knee. Her hair was pulled straight back, tied in a ponytail with a blue hair scrunchie. Hey, what are you doing back in my neighbourhood? She asked, smiling as if she ran over me. That building, I stammered, pointing to the vacant lot. It's gone. Libby's expression changed. Well, don't say hi or anything, she muttered, frowning at me. Hi, I said. What happened to that building? She turned and followed my stare. Then she shrugged. Guess they tore it down. Thank you, Queen. I'll consider it. If I didn't already quit one job already, and I'll quit again and become a professional storyteller. Or maybe I'll just do this more frequently. Who knows? Well, thank you. But, I sputtered. It was so ugly, Libby said. Maybe the city made them tear it down. But did you see them tear it down? I demanded impatiently. You live near here, right? Did you see them doing it? She thought about it. Twinkling her green eyes, she thought, well, no, she replied finally. I've gone past here a few times, but... You didn't see any machinery? I demanded, anxiously. Any big wrecking balls? Any bulldozers? Dozens of workers? Libby shook her head. No, I didn't actually see anything tearing the building down, but it didn't really look. She pulled her red backpack off her shoulder and held the strap in front of her with both hands. Strap on, strap off. Stop it, me. I don't know why you're so interested in that ugly building, Skipper. I'm glad it's gone. But it was in a comic book, I blurted out. Huh? She stared hard at me. What are you talking about? I knew she wouldn't understand. Nothing, I muttered. Skipper, did you come all the way here just to see that building? She asked. No way, I lied. Of course not. Do you want to come to my house and see my comic book collection? Bow chicka wow wow chicka wow. I was so frazzled and mixed up. I said yes. I hurried out of Libby's house less than an hour later. Those high school Barry and Beanhead comics are the most boring comics in the world. How can they be so boring with a name like that? I'd read the shit out of high school Harry and Beanhead. Does Beanhead? Does he have a solo series? Like a Beanhead What If or something? Anyway, the art is so lame. Can't everyone see that the two girls are drawn exactly the same, except one has blonde hair, one has black? Yuck. Libby insisted on showing me every high school Harry and Beanhead comic she had, and she had shelves full of them. Of course, I couldn't concentrate on those boring comics. I couldn't stop thinking about the weird building. How could a whole building vanish without a trace? I jogged back to the bus stop on Main Street. The sun was sinking behind the buildings. Long blue shadows tilted over the sidewalks. When I got to the corner, I bet the building will be back. I found myself thinking, but of course, it wasn't. I know. I have weird thoughts. I guess it comes from reading too many comic books. I had to wait nearly half an hour for the bus to come. I spent the whole time staring at the empty lot, thinking about the vanished building. When I finally got home, I found a little brown envelope waiting for me on the little table in the hall where Mum drops the mail. It doesn't actually pick it up, she just drops it there and that's it. Nobody ever reads it. Yes! I exclaimed happily. The special issue of the Masked Mutant. The comics company was sending out 2 special editions this month, and this was the first. I called, hi, to my mum. tossed my coat and heavy backpack onto the floor, and raced up the stairs to my room, the comic book gripped tightly in my hot little hand. Couldn't wait to see what happened after the galloping gazelle sneaked into the Masked Mutant's headquarters. Carefully, I slid the comic book out of the envelope and examined the cover. And there it stood. Sports Illustrated. No, the pink and green headquarters building. Right on the cover. My hand trembled as I opened the first page. Calm down. And he goes, yeah, he didn't do that, did he? But he's got his shoes on his bed as well. The little monster. Who's the real villain in this book, I tell you? There it stood, the pink and green headquarters building, right on the cover. My hand trembled as I opened the first page. Morning of a Mutant was the big title in scary red letters. The Masked Mutant was getting his breakfast. The Masked Mutant stood in front of a big communications console. He stared into a wall of about 20 TV monitors. Each TV monitor showed a different member of the League of the Good Guys. About 20, but you said there's only 6 of them. That's a deficit of 40 monitors showing nothing. I'm tracking each one of them, the Masked Mutant said in the first dialogue bloom. They'll never find me. I've thrown an invisibility curtain around my entire headquarters. Hey, you know what else would work today? A sort of invisibility curtain. Not making it fucking bright pink. My mouth dropped open as I read these words. I read them 3 times before I let my comic book slip out of my hands in my bed. An invisibility curtain. No one can see the Masked Mutant's building because he slips an invisibility curtain around it. Oh, we're having parallels with real life now. Is this where this is going? No one can see the Masked Mutant's building because he slipped an invisibility curtain around it. I sat excitedly on the edge of my bed, breathing hard. Don't do that. Feeling the blood pulse at my temples. Is that what happened in real life? Is this real life? Or is this just fantasy? Is this why I couldn't see the pink and green building this afternoon? Was the comic book giving me the answer to the mystery of this missing building? It sounded crazy. It sounded totally crazy. But was it real? Was there really an invisibility curtain hiding the building? My head was spinning faster than the amazing Tornado Man. I knew the only thing. I had to go back there and find out. I thought this sounded familiar. The flavour text of this is at the back of the other book. Right, we are on to chapter 9, guys, of, I think there's 30 chapters? Yep, 30 chapters of 118 pages, of which we are on page 37. So, yeah, I'm not further away from the book already. I need to slow the hell down. Chin chin. Stay hydrated, everyone, by the way. And I hope you're enjoying the story so far. Do you know how it ends? Have you read this book before? Because I haven't. Tea victory. No more tea. Him. Chippity chapter number 9. After school, the next afternoon, I had to go with my mum to the mall to buy sneakers. I usually try on at least 10 or 12 pairs. Then beg for the most expensive ones. You know, the ones that pump up or flash lights when you're walking them. So 90s. But this time I bought the first pair I saw. Plain black and white Reeboks. Can't say the name. I'll get demonetized. Pack it in. So we'll call them reboots. I mean, who could think about the sneakers when an invisible building was waiting to be discovered? Driving home from the mall, I started to tell Mom about the building, but she stopped me after a few sentences. I wish you were as interested in your schoolwork as you were in those dumb comics, she said, sighing. That's what she always says. When is the last time you read a good book? She continued. That's the next thing she always says. I decided to change the subject. We dissected a worm today for science, I told her. Choose from 10 pages. Children. Bastards. She made a disgusted face. Doesn't your teacher have anything better to do than cut up poor innocent worms? There was just no pleasing Mum today. The next afternoon, wearing my new sneakers, I eagerly hopped onto the city bus, tossing my token into the box. Into the box. Don't toss near a box. I saw Libby sitting near the back. As the bus lurched away from the curb, I stumbled down the aisle and dropped beside her, lowering my backpack from the floor. I'm going back to that building, I said breathlessly. I think there's an invisibility curtain. Why is Libby always on this fucking bus? Does she ever do anything else? Is she just there constantly? It's 3 times she's been on it. It's a public service one. It's not like a rooted building or anything. Oh, God. Why did I say building? I don't know. That's just probably because I've been reading the word building several times. I'm going back to that building, I said breathlessly. I think there's an invisibility curtain around it. Don't you ever say hi? She complained, rolling her eyes. I said hi. Then I repeated what I said about the invisibility curtain. I told her I read about it in the newest Masked Mutant comic, and that the comic may be giving clues as to what was happening in real life. Libby listened to me intently, not blinking, not moving. I could see that she was finally starting to see why I was so excited about finding this building. When I finished explaining everything, she put her hand on my forehead. You don't feel hot, she said. Are you seeing us shrink? Huh? I pushed her hand away. Are you seeing us shrink? You're totally out of your mind. You know that, don't you? I'm not crazy. Would a crazy person do this? That's not what he says. I'm not crazy, I said. I'll prove it. Come with me. She edged closer to the window as if trying to get away from me. No way, she declared. I can't believe I'm sitting here with a boy who thinks that comic books come to life, said the person that reads Beanhead. She pointed out the window. Hey, look, Skipper. There goes the Easter Bunny. He's handing an egg to the Tooth Fairy, she laughed. And Bean laughed. That's probably another Goosebumps going on about exactly the same time. Ha-ha, I muttered angrily. I have a good sense of humour, but I don't like being laughed at by girls who collect high school Harry and Beanhead comics. Sorry, I just made myself laugh. I think we can all relate to that, can't we, guys? I don't think... we don't like being laughed at by girls who collect high school Harry and Beanhead comics. This book's amazing. It's my favourite book ever. The bus pulled up to the bus stop. I hoisted my backpack and scrambled out the back exit. Libby stalked off right behind me. As the bus pulled away, sending out puffs of black exhaust behind it, I gazed across the street. No building. An empty lot. Well, I turned to Libby. You coming? She twisted her mouth into thoughtful expressions. To that empty lot, Skipper? Aren't you going to feel like a jerk when there's nothing there? Well, go home then, I told her sharply. Okay, I'll come, she said, grinning. We crossed the street. Two teenagers on bikes nearly ran us over. Missed them, one of them cried. The other one laughed. How did we get through the invisibility curtain? Libby asked. Her voice sounded serious, but I could see by her eyes she was laughing at me. In the comic book, people just step through it, I told her. You can't feel it or anything. It's like a smoke screen, but once you step through it, you can see the building. Okay, let's try it, Libby said. She tossed her ponytail over her shoulder. Let's get this over with, okay? Walking side by side, we took a step across the sidewalk toward the empty lot. Then another step. Then another. We crossed the sidewalk and stepped into the hard dirt. I can't believe I'm doing this, Libby grumbled. We took another step. I can't believe I'm... She stopped because the building popped into the view. Oh... We both cried out in unison. She grabbed my wrist and squeezed it hard. Her hand was ice cold. We stood a few feet from the grass entrance. The bright walls of the pink and green building rose above us. You were right, Lemmy stammered, still squeezing my wrist. I swallowed higher. You were. I tried to talk, but my mouth was suddenly too dry. I coughed, and no words came out. Now what? Libby asked, staring at the shiny walls. I still couldn't speak. The comic book is real, I thought. The comic book is real. Does that mean the building really belongs to the Masked Mutant? Oh, I warned myself to calm down. My heart was already racing faster than Speed Boy. He is on a lot of drugs. Now what? Libby repeated impatiently. Let's get away from here, okay? For the first time, she sounded really frightened. No way, I told her. Come on, let's go in. She took me back. Go in? Are you crazy? We have to, I told her. Come on, don't stop to think about it now. Let's go. I took a deep breath, pulled down the heavy glass door, and we slipped inside. And then we went in the building. I like to read my kids Stephen King books at bedtime. Hey, Wilson Panther. Hey, that's good you're reading to your kids. That's good of you. It's always good to read to our kids. It's good for their learning. Yes. I don't know where I'm going with that. Yay! Let's carry on. Chapter 10. We took one step into the brightly lit lobby. My heart was pounding so hard. My chest hurt. My knees were shaking. I've never been so scared in my life. I glanced quickly all around. That wasn't very quick, was it? The lobby was enormous. It seemed to stretch on forever. The pink and yellow walls gave off a soft glow. The sparkly white ceiling seemed to be a mile above our heads. I didn't see a reception desk. No chairs or tables. No furniture of any kind. Where is everyone? Libby whispered. I could see that she was frightened too. She clung to my arm, standing close beside me. The vast room was empty. Not another person in sight. I took another step and heard a soft beep, beep. A room of yellow light shot out the wall and rolled over my body. Oh God, it gets worse. I felt a gentle tingling, kind of a prickly feeling, the kind of feeling where your arm goes to sleep. It swept down quickly from my head to my feet. Queen, sound alerts are on. Sorry. It swept down quickly from my head to my feet. A second or two later, the light vanished from the tingly feeling went away. What was that? I whispered to Libby. What was what? She replied. Didn't you feel that? She shook her head. I didn't feel anything. Are you trying to scare me or something, Skipper? It was some kind of electric beam, I told her. It shined at me when I stepped forward. Oh, it was a beep. Okay, noot. Noot, noot. There you go. Let's get out of here, she muttered. It's so quiet. It's creepy. I turned my eyes to the row of elevators against the yellow wall. Did I dare take a ride on one? Was I brave enough to do a little exploring? It's just a big office building, I told Libby, trying to work up my courage. Well, if it's an office building, where were the workers? She demanded. Maybe the offices are closed, I suggested. On a Thursday? Libby replied. It isn't a holiday or anything. I think the building is empty, Skipper. I don't think anyone works here. I took a few steps towards the elevators. My sneakers thudded loudly on the hard marble floor. Thud. But all the lights are on, Libby, I said, and the door was open. She hurried to catch up with me. Her eyes kept darting back and forth. I could see she was really scared. I know what you're thinking, she said. You don't think this is an office building. You think this is a secret headquarters of that comic book character, don't you, Skipper? I swallowed hard. My knees are still shaking. I tried to make them stop, but they wouldn't. Well, maybe it is, I replied, staring at the elevator across from us. I mean, how do you explain the invisibility curtain? It was in the comic book. It was outside this building. Why, I can't explain it, Libby stammered. It's weird. It's too weird. This place gives me the creeps. Sometimes I give myself the creeps, Skipper, I really think. There's only one way to find out the truth, I said. I tried to sound brave, but my voice shook nearly as much as my knees. Libby followed my gaze to the elevators. She guessed what I was thinking. No way, she cried, stepping back towards the glass doors. We'll just ride up and down, I told her. Maybe open the elevator doors and a few floors and peek out. No way, Libby repeated. Her face suddenly appeared very pale. Her green eyes were wide with fright. That's fright, apparently. Libby, it will only take a minute, I insisted. We've come this far. I have to explore a little. I don't want to go home without finding out what this building is. You can ride an elevator, she said. I'm going home. She packed up to the glass doors. Maybe Secret HQ is in a call centre, Skip. Yeah, maybe. It was explaining the lack of staff because maybe it's COVID. Maybe it's COVID and everywhere's closed. You think anything about that, Skipper? Still in lockdown. You should be at home. Outside, I saw a white and blue bus stop at the curb. A woman climbed off, carrying a baby in one hand, dragging a stroller in the other. Thank God it's not the other way around. I could run out the door and climb right onto the bus, I thought. I could get out of here, safe and sound, and be on my way home. But what would happen when I got home? I would feel like a coward, a total wimp, and I would spend day after day wondering about this building, wondering if it had actually discovered the secret headquarters of a real supervillain. If I jumped on the bus and rode home now, the building would still be a mystery, and the mystery would drive me crazy. Okay, Libby, you can go home if you want, I told her. I'm going to ride the elevator to the top and back. She stared at me thoughtfully, then she rolled her eyes. Okay, I'll come with you, she murmured, shaking her head. I was glad. I really didn't want to go alone. I'm only doing this because I feel sorry for you, Libby said, following me across the marble floor to the elevators. Why do you feel sorry for me? I demanded. You're the one with the Beanhead comics. Because you're so messed up, she replied. If you think people are messed up to a dangerous level, don't follow them around. Run. Get on the bus where it's safe. You really think a comic book can come to life? That's sad. That's really sad. Thank goodness high school Harry and Beanheads can't come to life. Oh, what a shame. I teased. Then I added, what about the invisibility curtain? That was real, wasn't it? Libby didn't reply. Instead, she laughed. You're serious about this, she said. The sound of her laughter echoed in the enormous empty lobby. Echo, echo, echo. It made me feel a little braver. I laughed too. What's the big deal? I asked myself. So you're going to take an elevator ride? So what? It's not like the Masked Mutants are going to jump into the elevator with us, I assured myself. We'll probably peek out at a lot of boring offices, and that's all. I pushed a lighting button on the wall. Instantly, the silvery elevator door in front of us slid open. I poked my head into the elevator. It had walls of dark brown wood with a silver railing that went all the way around. There were no signs in the walls, no building directory, no words at all. I suddenly realised there were no signs in the lobby either. Not even a sign with the name of the building, or a sign to tell visitors where to check in. Weird. Let's go, I said. Libby held back. I took her by the arm into the elevator. The door slid shut silently behind us as soon as we stepped in. I turned to the control panel to the left of the door. It was a long, silvery rectangle filled with buttons. I pushed a button to the top floor. The elevator started to hum. You can talk. You can hum. Wow, that's amazing. Hum some Mario. It jerked slightly as we began to move. I turned to Libby. She had her back pressed against the back wall. Her hands shoved into her jeans pockets. She stared straight ahead at the door. We're moving, I murmured. The elevator picked up speed. Hey! Libby and I both cried at the same time. We're going down, I explained. Ooh, Ghostly Walk, thank you very much for the follow. I appreciate that. I hope you're enjoying the stream. I had pushed a button to the top floor, but we were dropping. Fast. Faster. Let's go faster. I grabbed the railing with both hands. And now I can't read the book. Where was it taking us? Would it ever stop? You should do yourself Goosebumps. Scooby-Doo can do, but Jimmy Carter is smarter. I got nothing. Chapter 11. The elevator stopped with a hard thud that made my knees bend. Whoa, I cried. I let go of the railing and turned to Libby beside me. You okay? She nodded. She stared straight ahead at the elevator door. We should have gone up, I muttered tensely. I pushed up. Why doesn't the door open? Libby asked in a trembling voice. We both stared at the door. I stepped to the center of the elevator. Open, I commanded it. With cheers. The door didn't move. We're trapped in here. Sorry, there's no sounds like it's on Ghostly Walk. I'll give you a channel points left at the end of the stream. We're trapped in here, Libby said, her voice getting shrill and tiny. No, I replied, still trying to be the brave one. It'll open. Watch. It'll just slow. The door didn't open. The elevator must be broken, Libby wailed. We'll be trapped down here forever. The air is starting to run out already. I can't breathe. Don't panic, I warned, struggling to keep my voice calm. Take a deep breath, Libby. There's plenty of air. She obediently sucked in a deep breath. She let out a long Why won't this door open? I knew we shouldn't have done this. I turned to the control panel. A button at the bottom read Open. I pushed it. Instantly, the door slid open. I turned back to Libby. See? We're okay. But where are we? She cried. I stepped to the doorway and poked my head out. It was very dark. I could see some kind of heavy machinery in the darkness. We're in the basement, I think, I told Libby. There are all kind of pipes and a big furnace and things. Let's go, Libby urged, hanging back against the elevator wall. I took a step out of the door and glanced both ways. I couldn't see much. More machinery. A row of metal trash cans. A stack of long metal boxes. Come on, Skipper, Libby demanded. Let's go back up. Now.
Go. Get to the elevator.
I stepped back into the elevator and pushed the button marked Lobby. The door didn't close. The elevator didn't move. Didn't hum. I pushed Lobby again. I pushed it 5 or 6 times. Nothing happened. I suddenly had a lump in my throat as big as a watermelon. God damn, that's a big old lump. How do you not choke to death? I really don't want to be stuck down here in this dark basement. I started pushing buttons wildly. I pushed everything. I pushed a red button marked emergency 5 or 6 times. Nothing. I don't believe this, I choked out. Let's get out and take a different elevator, Libby suggested. Good idea, I thought. There was a long row of elevators up into the lobby. We'll just get out of this one and push the button for another one to come down and get us. I led the way into the dark basement. Libby stayed close behind me. Oh, we both let out low cries as the elevator door quickly slid behind us. What's going on? I demanded. Why wasn't it closed before? Libby didn't reply. I waited for my eyes to adjust to the darkness. Then I saw what Libby was staring at. Where are the other elevators? She cried. We were staring at a smooth, bare wall. The elevator that brought us down here was the only elevator on the wall. I spun around, checking out the other walls, but it was too dark to see very far. The other elevators don't come down here, I guess, Libby murmured in a trembling voice. I searched the wall for a button to push to bring our elevator back. I couldn't find one. No button. There's no way out, Libby wailed. No way out at all. Should be the person that reads the Goosebumps audiobooks. Thank you very much, Ghostly Walk. That's twice it's been said today. Thank you very much. Maybe I'll look into it. If Goosebumps or R.L Stine, if you're listening, and I know you're not, and give me money and a job, please. Oh man, chapter 12. You know what? We're nearly halfway through this book. There's been a bugger all of the attack of the mutants so far. He's not even done a preamble. Nothing. Not even a villainous speech. Where the hell is he? Attack my ass. Chapter 12. Maybe there are elevators on the other wall, I said, pointing across the huge dark room. Maybe, Libby repeated doubtfully. Maybe there's a stairway or something, I said. Maybe, she said softly. A sudden noise made me jump. A fumble followed by a grinding hum. Calling all creeps my favourite. I will look into that. A sudden noise made me jump. A fumble followed by a grinding hum. Just the furnace started up, I told Libby. Let's find a way out of here, she urged. I'm never going in an elevator again as long as I live. I could feel her hand on my shoulder as I started to make my way through the darkness. The huge grey furnace rumbled and coughed. Another big machine made a soft clattering sound as we edged past it. Anyone down there? I called. My voice echoed off into the long, dust-covered pipes that ran across the low ceiling above our heads. I cut my hands around my mouth and called again. Anybody there? Can anybody hear me? Silence. The only words I could hear were the rumble of the furnace and the soft scrape of our sneakers as Libby and I slowly crept across the floor. As we came near the far wall, we could see there were no elevators over here. The smooth plaster wall was bare except for a thick tangle of cobwebs up near the ceiling. There's got to be some stairs leading out of here, Libby whispered, close behind me. Dim light shone through a narrow doorway up ahead. Let's see where this leads, I said, brushing stringy spiderwebs off my face. We stepped towards the doorway and found ourselves in a long hallway. Dust-covered ceiling bulbs cast pale light onto the concrete floor. Anybody here? I called again. My voice sounded hollow in the long corridor of the hallway. No reply. Dark doorways lined both sides of the hallway. I peeked into each door as we passed. I saw stacks of cartons, tall file cabinets, strange machinery I didn't recognize. One large room was jammed with enormous coils of metal cable. Another room had sheets of metal piled nearly to the ceiling. Hello? I called. Hello? No reply. Flashing red lights inside a large room caught my eye. Oh, you should probably get your eyes back. I stopped at the doorway and stared into some sort of control panel. One wall was filled with blinking red and green lights. In front of the lights stood a long counter of dials and gears and lever. 3 tall stools were placed along the counter. Not those types of stools. But no one sat in them. Good, it'll be very messy. No one worked the controls. The room was empty as the rest of this strange, frightening basement. Weird, huh? I whispered to Libby. When she didn't answer, I turned to make sure she was okay. Libby? She was gone. Has the mutant finally attacked off screen? And by off screen, I meant off page, or however it works. Let's find out. In chapter 13, Revenge of the chapter 12. I spun around. Libby! My entire body shook. Where are you? I squinted back down the long grey hallway. No sign of her. Libby, If this is some kind of dumb joke, I started, but the rest of my words caught in my throat. Breathing hard, I forced myself to retrace our steps. Libby? I stopped at every door and called her name. Libby! The hallway curved and I followed it. I began jogging, my hands down stiffly at my sides, calling her name, searching every door, peering to every dark room. How could she get lost? I asked myself, feeling my panic rise until I could barely breathe. She was right behind me. I turned another corner, into a hallway I hadn't explored yet. Libby! I was starting to make fun of making ghosts disappear. I have not ghostly walk. No. I might look into it though. The narrow hall led to an enormous brightly lit room. I had to shut my eyes against the sudden bright light. When I opened them, I found myself nearly face to face with a gigantic machine. Bright flooding lights from the high ceiling covered it in a light. Lights covered it in light, okay. The machine had to be a block long. A big control panel filled with dials and buttons and lights. Obsessed with lights now. Stood against the side. A long flat part, like a conveyor belt, led to several rollers, and at the very end of the machine stood a huge white wheel. No, a cylinder. No, a roll of white paper. Make your mind up. It's a printing press, I realised. I lurched into the room, stepped around the stacks of paper and cardboard cartons. The room floor was littered with paper, ink-smeared paper, crumpled paper, folded and ripped. As I staggered towards the huge printing press, a sea of paper rose up nearly to my knees. Libby, are you in here, Libby? Silence. The room was empty as all the others. The paper crackled underneath my sneakers. I made my way to a long table at the back of the room. I found a red stool in front of a table. If you have a red stool, please consult your doctor. And I dropped down on it. I kicked sheets of paper away from my legs and glanced around the room. 100 questions pushed into my mind at once. Where is Libby? How could she disappear like that? Is she somewhere close behind me? Will she follow the hallway to this big room? Where is everyone? Why did this place totally deserted? Is this where they print the comic books? Am I in the basement of Collectible Comics? The company that published the Masked Mutant? Questions. Questions. My brain felt about to burst. I stared around the cluttered room, my eyes rolling past the gigantic printing press, searching for Libby. Where was she? Where? I turned back to the table and gasped. I nearly toppled off the stool. The Masked Mutant was staring up at me. Dun dun dun. Dun 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 dun. Chapter 14. A large colour drawing of the Masked Mutant stared up at me from the table. Startled, I picked up. I've forgotten how to read. I do apologise. The Masked Mutant stared at me from the table. Startled, I picked it up and examined it. It had been drawn on thick poster board in coloured inks. The Masked Mutant's cape swept behind him. Through his mask, his eyes appeared to stare out at me. Evil, angry eyes. I can't do evil, angry eyes. I can barely do puppy dog eyes. The ink glistened on the page as if still wet. I rubbed my thumb over an edge of the cape. The ink didn't come off. I wonder if Storenko drew this portrait, I thought, studying it. Glancing across the table, I saw a stack of papers on a low counter that ran across the entire back wall. Hopping off the tool stool, I made my way over to the counter and began shuffling through the papers. There were ink drawings and pencil sketches. Many of them were the Masked Mutant. They showed him in different poses. Don't like where this is going. Showed him moving his molecules around, changing into wild animals and strange and unearthly creatures. I opened a thick folder and found about a dozen colour sketches of the members of the League of Good Guys. Then I found a stack of pencil drawings of characters I'd never seen before. This must be when I make the comic books, I told myself. I was so excited about seeing these actual drawings and sketches, I nearly forgot about Libby. These pink and green buildings must be the headquarters of Collectible Comics, I realised. Didn't you already come to that conclusion? I was starting to feel calmer. My fears dropped away like the feathers of the battling bird boy. The battling bird boy. What a name. After all, there was nothing to be afraid of. I hadn't stumbled into the headquarters of the world's most evil supervillain. I was in the basement of the comic book offices, where nobody works, apparently. This is where the writers and artists work, and this is where they print the comic books every month. So why should I be afraid? I shuffled through folder after folder, making my way down the long counter. I found a pile of layouts for the comic book that I'd just bought. It was so exciting seeing the actual art. The page was really big, at least twice as big as this comic book. I guess that the artist made the drawings much bigger than the actual page, And then they shrank the drawings down when they pointed into them. I found some really new pencil drawings of the Masked Mutant. I knew they were new because I didn't recognize any of them from my comics at home. And I have them all. Drawing after drawing, my eyes were practically spinning. I'd never dreamed that collectible comics were made right in Riverview Falls. I flipped through the sketchbook of penguin people portraits. I never liked the penguin people. I know they're good guys, and people really think they're great, but I think their black and white costumes just look silly. I'd read penguin people portraits, that sounds awesome. I was having a great time, really enjoying myself. Of course, it had to end. It ended when I opened the last folder on the counter and stared at the sketches inside. I gasped in disbelief, my hands trembling as I shuffled from one to the next. This is impossible, I cried. I was staring at sketches of me. What, me? Or himself? Explain, Buck. I'm sure it will. Chapter 15. I frantically shuffled through the big stack of drawings. You're just imagining it, Skipper, I told myself. The boy in the sketches only looks like you. It isn't really you, but it had to be me. In every drawing, the boy had my round face, my dark hair, cut short on the sides and long on top. He was short like me, and just a little bit chubby. He had my crooked smile, a little higher up on one side. He wore my clothes, baggy jeans and long-sleeved pocket t-shirts. No. I stopped at the drawing halfway through the pile and stared hard at it, holding it close to my face. Oh, wow, I exclaimed. The boy in the drawing even had a chip on his front tooth, just like me. There's chips, guys. You know you want to... It's impossible, I cried out loud. My voice tiny and shrill in the enormous room. Who had been drawing me? And why? Why would a comic book artist make sketch after sketch of me? And how did the artist know me so well? How did the artist know I have a tiny chip on one front tooth? A cold shiver ran down my back. I suddenly felt very frightened. I stared at the drawings, my heart pounding. Ow. In one drawing, I looked really scared. It was running from something, my arms out stiffly in front of me. 605, you can do better than that. It worked. In one drawing, I looked really scared. I was running from something, my arms out stiffly in front of me. Another drawing was a close-up portrait of my face. My expression in the sketch was angry. No, more than angry. I looked furious. Another sketch showed me flexing my muscles. Hey, I look pretty cool, I thought. The artist had given me bulging superhero biceps. In another drawing, my eyes were closed. Oh, now I can't read it. Fuck. Alright, fine, I'll open them again. Was I asleep? Or was I dead? Or am I in a coma? In the grey area? I was still staring at the drawings, shuffling from one to the next, studying each one, when I heard the footsteps, and realised I was no longer alone. Who's there? I cried, whirling around. That's my whirling around impression, but it's a bit cloudy around it. Or is he getting off? Who knows? Or even cares? Okay. Wow, we're burning for this. Chapter 16. Where were you? Libby demanded angrily, running across the room towards me. I searched everywhere. Where were you? I shot back. I thought you were right behind me. I thought you were right ahead of me, she cried. I turned the corner, and you were gone. She stepped out in front of me, breathing hard, her face bright red. How could you leave me by myself in this creepy place? I didn't, I insisted. You left me. No buses were harmed in the reading of this book. She shook her head, still gasping for breath. Well, let's get out of here, Skipper. I found some elevators that are working. She took my sleeve. I picked up the stack of drawings. Look, Libby. I held them up to her. You have to see these. Are you serious? She cried. I want to get out of here. I don't want to look at comic book drawings now. But, what? I sputtered, waving the drawings. She turned and started towards the doorway. I told you I found some elevators. Are you coming or not? But these drawings are of me, I cried. Yes, sure, she called back sarcastically. She stopped at the front of the big printing press and turned back to me. Why would anyone draw you, Skipper? I don't know, I stammered. But these drawings... You have a sick imagination, she said. You seem like a normal guy. But you're totally... You never seem like a normal guy. What the hell are you on about? You even said it was weird earlier. What the fuck? Libby's a bit weird herself, I think. Libby started jogging over the paper-cluttered floor to the door. No! Wait, I called. I dropped the drawings on the counter, slid off the tall stool, and chased after her. Wait up, Libby! I followed her out into the hall. I didn't want to be left alone in this creepy place either. I had to go home and think about this. I had to puzzle it out. My head was spinning. Best I can do for that. I was totally confused. I followed her through the long tunnel of hallways. We turned the corner, and I saw a row of elevators against the wall. Libby pushed a button on the room, and one of the elevators slid open silently. We both peered carefully inside before stepping on. It was empty. We were both panting. My head was throbbing. My side ached. Neither of us spoke a word. Libby pushed a button marked lobby. We had heard a soft hum and felt the elevator start to move. When the door slid open, when we saw the pink and yellow walls of the lobby, Libby and I both cheered. We burst out of the elevator together and ran across the marble floor to the exit. Out on the sidewalk, I stopped, lowering my hands to my knees, sucking in the deep breaths of fresh air. When I glanced up, I saw Libby studying her watch. I've got to get home, she said. My mum is going to have a cow. Definitely the 90s. Don't have a cow, man. Do you believe in me about the drawings? I asked breathlessly. No, she replied. Who would believe that? She waved and made her way across the street, heading for home. I could see a bus approaching a few blocks down, searching in my jeans pocket for a token. I turned to take one last look at the weird building. It had vanished once again. I needed time to think about everything that happened. But Wilson was waiting for me when I got home, and he followed me up to my room. I brought over some of my rubber stamps, he said, raising a brown paper bag up to my face. He turned it over and emptied it onto my desk. I thought you might like to see some of the better ones. Wilson, I started. I really don't. This one is a ladybug, he said, holding up a small wooden stamp. It's very old. It's the oldest one I own here. Here, I'll show it to you. He opened a blue ink pad, stamped the ladybug on it, and pressed it onto the top of the pad of paper I had on the desk. How old is it? I asked him. I don't know, he replied. He held up another one. It's a cow, he said, as if I couldn't tell. He stamped it onto the pad. I have several cows, Wilson said, but I only bought one. I studied the cow, pretending to be interested. It's another really old one, Wilson said proudly. How old? I asked. He shrugged. Beats me. He asked for another stamp. Wilson, I just had a really weird thing happen, I told him, and I need to think about it. Alone. Don't like where this is going. He narrowed his blue eyes at me, confused. What happened? It's kind of a long story, I said. I was in a building on the north side of town. I think it's where they make the collectible comics. Really? Here in Riverview Falls? Wilson's face filled with surprise. And they let you in there? There was no one there, I told him. It felt good to share the story with someone, so we went in. This girl and I met on the bus, Libby. And me? We tried. Met on the bus, Libby and me. Okay. We tried to go up in the elevator, but it took us down. Then Libby got lost, and I found the stack of drawings by myself. Whoa, Wilson exclaimed, raising a hand for me to stop. I'm not following this too well, Skipper. I realised why I hadn't made any sense at all. How could I explain it? I told Wilson I'd talk to him later after I calmed down. I helped him gather up his rubber stamps. He bought about 20 of them. 20 of the best, he said. I walked him downstairs and said I'd call him after dinner. After he left, something caught my eye on the mail table in the hall. A brown envelope. My heart jumped. Was it? Yes. An envelope from the Collectible Comics Company. The next special issue of the Masked Mutant. Hang on, this is 3 issues he's got. I thought he was meant to come out monthly. Has he got backlogs or something? Is he catching up? I was so excited, I nearly knocked the whole table over as I grabbed for the envelope. I tucked it under my arm without opening it and ran up the stairs 2 at a time. I needed total privacy for your hentai comic. I have to study this. Study, I told myself. I closed the bedroom door behind me and dropped down to the edge of my bed. My hands trembled as I ripped open the envelope and called out the comic. The cover showed a close-up of the Masked Mutant. His eyes glared angrily out at the reader. A new foe for the mutant, proclaimed the title. Huh? A new foe? I took a deep breath and held it. Calm down, Skipper, I urged myself. It's only a comic book. Yes, it is only a comic book. Calm the fuck down. But why would this new issue help me solve the mystery for me? Would it tell me anything about the strange pink and green headquarters building? Would it help solve any of the puzzles from this afternoon? I turned to the first page. It showed the headquarters building from above. The next drawing showed the building at street level. In the deep shadows, someone was approaching the glass doors. Someone was sneaking to the headquarters building. I turned the page and shrieked at the top of the lungs, "I don't believe it!" and turned into Victor Meldrew. Well, I never saw that ending coming, did you guys? Turning into Richard Wilson. I didn't believe it myself. Unfortunately, it's not the end. We have more chapters to go. Chapter 17. Yes, you probably guessed it. It was me sneaking into the Masked Mutant's headquarters building. I stared at the page so hard I thought my eyes were going to pop out of my head. I was so excited, and I just couldn't hide it, and so shocked I couldn't read the words. They became a grey blur. I turned the pages with shaking hands. I don't think I took a breath. I studied each picture, holding the comic book out an inch from my face. Too close. The galloping gazelle sat in a tiny room. The room grew hotter and hotter. In minutes, the galloping gazelle would become the boiled gazelle. You can think of a better term for that. What about the grilled gazelle? That's a better word. It's better literacy. Come on, writers. The Masked Mutant had trapped the galloping gazelle in his headquarters, and now he planned to leave the gazelle there to boil. I turned the page. My hand shook so hard I nearly tore the page off. It's only a comic book. There I was, creeping through the dark hallways. In the comic, I wore the same t-shirt and baggy jeans I had on right now. The next drawing showed a close-up of my face. Nobody wants to see that. Big balls of sweat rolled down my pink face. I guess that meant I was scared. I'm a little too chubby in that drawing, I thought. But it was me. It was definitely me. Mom! I screamed, closing the comic and jumping off the bed. Mom! Dad! You have to see this. I tore out the room and hurtled down the stairs. I don't think my feet touched the floor. Mom! Dad! Where are you? I found him in the kitchen preparing dinner. Dad was chopping onions by the sink. His eyes were filled with tears. Mom was bent over the stove as usual. As usual? Oh dear. Stereotype or what? She was having trouble getting the oven lit. I'm in this comic book! I cried, bursting in the room. Not now, they both replied in unison. No, you have to see this, I insisted, waving it in front of Dad. Dad didn't stop chopping. You had the letter to the editor published, he asked through his tears. No, I'm in the comic, I told him breathlessly. I waved it closer at him. I can't see a thing, Dad exclaimed. Get that away from me. I can't see what this onion is doing to my eyes. There's a trick to chopping onions, Mum said, bent over the stove, but I don't know what it is. I ran over to Mum. You have to check this out, Mum. I'm in here. Look, it's really me. Mum shook her head, frowning. I can't get it to light, she said, sighing. I think the pilot is out again. I'll check it if I ever stop crying, Dad told her. Will you look at this? I screamed, totally losing it. Mum gave a quick glance at the page I was holding in front of her. Yes, that does look a little like you, Skipper, she said, waving at me away. She turned back to the oven. We really need a new stove there. Dad, take a look, I pleaded. I ran back to him, but he had shoved the towel up to his face and was crying into the towel. I guess you can't look at it now, huh? I said softly. He didn't answer. He just cried into the towel. Yes, if my child grew up to be like this kid, I'd probably cry into a towel as well. Let out a long, exasperated moan. What was their problem anyway? This was the most exciting thing that had ever happened to me, and they couldn't be bothered to take one look. Angrily, I closed the comic and stamped out the room. Skipper, set the table, Mum shouted after me. Set the table? I'm starring in a famous comic book and she's asking me to set the table? I always turn into one of these famous people. Don't you know who I am? Why can't Mitzi do it, I asked. Set the table, Skipper, Mum repeated sternly. Okay, in a few minutes, I called back. I dropped down to the living room couch and turned to the back of the comic. I had been too excited to read it to the end. Now I wanted to read the part where it tells you what to expect in the next comic. My eyes swept over the page. There was a galloping gazelle, still trapped in the boiling hot room, and there stood the Masked Mutant outside the door, about to declare its victory. I squinted at the white thought balloon over the galloping gazelle's head. What was he saying? Only the boy can save me now, the galloping gazelle was thinking. Only the boy can save me from the world when the Masked Mutant's evil. But where is he? I read it again and again. Was it true? Was I the only one who could save the Galloping Gazelle? Did I really have to go back there? No, your dinner's ready. So, sod him. Chapter 18. After school the next day, I hurried to the bus stop. It was a clear, cold day. The ground beneath my sneakers was frozen hard. The sky above looked like a broad sheet of cold blue ice. Leaning into the sharp wind, I wondered if Libby would be on the bus. I was dying to tell her about the comic book. I wanted to tell her I was going back into the strange building. Why would she go back with me? No way, I decided. Libby had been frightened after their first visit. I could never drag her back there. I jogged past the bodyguard, my eyes on the street, watching for a bus. Hey, Skipper! A familiar voice called. I turned out to see Wilson running after me, his coat unzipped and flapping around him behind him like wings. Skipper, what's up? You going home? 2 blocks up, the blue and white bus turned the corner. Nope, I'm going someplace, I told Wilson. I can't look at your rubber stamp collection now. His expression turned serious. I'm not collecting rubber stamps anymore, he said. I gave it up. I couldn't hide my surprise. Huh? How come? They took up so much of my time. How is collecting rubber stamps taking too much of your time? Okay, fine. The bus pulled up to the curb. The door opened. See you later, I told Wilson. As I stepped onto the bus, I remembered where I was going, and suddenly remembered that if I would see Wilson later, I wondered if I'd ever see him again. Libby wasn't on the bus. In a way, I was glad. It meant I wouldn't have to explain to her what I was doing. She would have laughed at me for believing in what I read in the comic book. But the comic book had told the truth about the invisibility curtain. And now it had said that I was the only one who could save the Galloping Gazelle and stop the Masked Mutant's evil. But it's just a comic book. Libby would have said, how can you be such a jerk to believe a comic book? That's what she would have said. And I don't know how I could have answered. But I was glad she wasn't on the bus. I climbed off the bus in front of the empty lot. I gazed at it from across the street. I knew it wasn't really an empty lot. I knew the pink and green building was there, hidden behind the invisibility curtain. As I crossed the street, I felt a wave of fear and sweep down over me. My mouth suddenly got dry. I tried to swallow, but I nearly choked. My throat felt as if some kind had tied a knot in it. Someone had tied a knot in it. Sorry. My stomach felt kind of flutter. And my knees got sweaty and refused to bend. Oh no, my knees didn't bend. I stopped on the sidewalk and struggled to calm myself down. It's just a comic book. It's just a comic book. That's what I told myself, repeating the words over and over. Finally, staring straight ahead at the empty lot, I worked up my courage enough to move forward, one step, another. Suddenly, the building popped into view. Pop. I gasped. Even though I had crossed through the invisibility curtain before, it was still amazing to see a building suddenly appear before my eyes, swallowing hard. I pulled open one of the glass entrance doors and stepped into the bright pink and yellow lobby. Staying near the door, I turned to the left, then to the right. Crisscross, everybody clap your hands. No, that's a song. Still empty. Not a person in sight. I coughed. My cough sounded tiny in the huge lobby. My sneakers squeaked all over the marble floor as I started the elevators on the wall. As I started to the elevators on the far wall. Where is everyone? I asked myself. It's the middle of the afternoon. How could I be the only one in this huge lobby? I wish Libby had come along, I decided. If Libby were here, at least I'd have someone to be terrified with. I pushed the elevator button. Well, here goes, I murmured, waiting for the door to open. And then someone laughed. A cold, evil laugh. Right behind me. Ha ha ha. I'm evil. I'm sure I could do a better laugh than that. Fine, there we go. Chapter 19. I let out a low cry and spun around. No one there. My laughter repeated, soft but cruel. Who's there? I choked out. The laughter stopped. I continued to search. My eyes went up to the wall behind the elevator, above the elevator. A small black loudspeaker poked out from the yellow wall. The laughter must have come from there, I decided. I stared up for it as if I expected to see someone in there. Get out of here, a voice inside of me begged. My sensible voice. Just turn around. Just walk away. Just walk away and we'll forget all about this. Just turn around, Skipper, and run out of this building as fast as your rubbery, shaky legs will take you. I ignored it and pressed the elevator button. The elevator door on the left slid open silently, and I stepped inside. The door closed. I stared at the control panel. Should I push it up or down? The last visit I pushed up the top floor, and the elevator had taken Libby and me down to the basement. My finger hesitated in front of the buttons. What would happen if this time I pressed down? Get down, deeper and down. I didn't get a chance to find out. The elevator started with a jolt before I pushed any button at all. I grabbed onto the railing. My hand was so cold and wet. The elevator hummed up as it rose. I'm going up, I realized. Up to where? The ride seemed to take forever. I watched the floor numbers whirl by at the top of the control panel. 40, 41, 45. No, that's not right. 42, 50, 1, 42 again. 42 once more. The elevator beeped each time it passed the floor. It came to a stop at 46. Was this the top floor? The door slid open. I let go of the railing and stepped out. I glanced down a long grey hallway. I blinked once. Twice. It looked as if I had stepped into a black and white movie. The walls were grey, the ceiling were grey, the floor was grey, the doors on both sides of the wall were grey. It felt as if I'm standing in a thick grey fog, I thought, peering one way. On the other, or in a dark cloud. No one in sight. Nothing moving. Floor 69, yeah, or floor 13. I listened hard. Listened for voices, for laughter, for the click and hum of office machinery. Silence. Except for the thudding of my heart. Ow. Stop doing that. I shoved my cold, clammy hands in the pockets of my jeans and began to walk, slowly following the hallway. I turned the corner and stared down the other endless grey hallway. The end of the hall seemed to fade away, to fade into a grey blur. You really like using the word grey, don't you? I suddenly remembered the drawings in the latest issue of the Masked Mutant. A big 2-page drawing had shown the long hallways of the Masked Mutant's secret headquarters, which apparently everyone can find. This long twisting hallway in the comic book looked just like this hallway, except that the comic book hallway had bright green walls and a yellow ceiling, and the rooms were filled with costumed supervillains who worked for the Masked Mutants. 50 Shades of Grey, yeah? Well, it only appears to be one shade of grey, just repeated. As I slowly made my way through this grey, empty hallway, I had a weird thought. Everything looked so grey and washed out, I had the feeling that I was in a sketch of a hallway, a black and white pencil drawing that hadn't been filled in yet. But, of course, that didn't make any sense at all. You're just thinking crazy thoughts because you're so scared, I told myself. And then I heard a noise. A hard, thumping sound. A bump. It was Mr. Clumsy from the Mr. Men. No, wait, that's the wrong comic book. Whoa! Sorry. Whoa, I whispered. My heart took to my throat. I stopped in the middle of the hall and listened. Bump. Thump. Realism. Coming up from ahead, from around the corner, I forced myself to walk. I turned the corner and gasped at the bright colours. The walls down this hallway were bright green. The ceiling was yellow. The thick carpet under my sneakers was a dark wine red. Bump. Bump. Thump. The colours were so bright, I had to shield my eyes with one hand. I squinted at the end of the hall. The green walls led to a closed yellow door. The door had a metal bolt against the front. Thump. Thump. The sounds were coming from behind the bolted doorway. I made my way slowly down the hall to the doorway. I stopped outside the bolted door. Anyone in there? I tried to call into the room, but my voice came out in a choked whisper. Anyone in there? I coughed and tried again. Anyone in there? No reply. Then another loud bumping sound, like wood thumping against wood. There we are. Anyone in there? I called, my voice a little stronger. The thumping sound stopped. Can you help me? A man's voice called from inside the room. I froze. Can you help me? The man pleaded. I hesitated for a second. Should I try to help him? Yes. I raised both hands to the metal bolt. I took a deep breath and shoved the bolt with all my strength. To my surprise, it slid easily. The door was unlocked. I turned the handle and pushed the door open. I stumbled off balance into the room and stared in amazement at the figure staring back at me. You're real! I cried. Bet it's a galloping gazelle. What do you reckon? According to chapter 20, his cape was twisted, and his mask had rolled down over one eye, but I knew I was staring at the galloping gazelle. You're really alive, I blurted out. Of course, he implied impatiently. Untie me, kid. He grazed toward the open door. You better hurry. I realized that his powerful arms and legs were tied to the chair. The thumping and bumping had been the sounds of his chair banging against the floor as he tried to escape. Here, banging. I can't believe you're here, I cried. I was so amazed and so frightened. I didn't know what I was saying. I'll give you an autograph later, I decided to, with this accent, to say, he said, his eyes still on the doorway. Just hurry, okay? We've got to get out of here. I don't think we have much time. Time? I stammered. He'll be back, the galloping gazelle murmured. We want to get to him before he gets us, right, kid? Us? I cried. Just untie me, the galloping gazelle instructed. I couldn't handle him. He shook his head. I wish I could contact my buddies at the League. They're probably searching for the universe for me. Still half dazed, I stumbled across the tiny room to the chair and began working at the ropes. The knots were big and tight and hard to untie. The coarse ropes scraped my hands as I struggled to loosen them. Hurry, kid, the galloping gazelle urged. Hey, how did you find the secret headquarters anyway? I just found it, I replied, tugging at the knots. Don't be modest, kid, the superhero said in his flat, low voice, which is not what I'm doing. You used your secret cyber radar powers, right? Or did you use ultra mind control to read my thoughts and hurry to my rescue? No, I just took the bus. Reply. That's such an answer I give. You should have travelled to Cosmos. No, I just got the either. I don't really know how to answer him. Did he have me confused with someone else? Why was I here? Don't get that deep now, book. Was that going to happen to Miss? To me? Questions. They flew from my mind as I frankly worked at the heavy ropes. I tried to ignore the pain from the cuts and scrapes in my hands, but it hurt a lot. Finally, one of the knots slid open. The galloping gazelle flexed his muscles and stretched out his powerful chest, and the ropes popped away easily. Thanks, kid, he boomed, jumping to his feet. He adjusted his mask so he could see through both eye holes. He then swept his long cape behind him and straightened his tights. Oh, he's wearing tights, isn't he? Okay, let's go pay him a surprise visit, he said, pulling towards the ends of his gloves. He started towards the door, taking long, heavy strides. His boots thundered loudly as he walked. Do you really want me to come too? I said, lingering behind the chair. He nodded. I know what you're worried about, kid. You're worried that you won't be able to keep up with me because I have dino legs and I'm the fastest living mutant in the known universe. Well, I hesitated. Don't worry, he replied. I'll go slow. He motioned impatiently. Let's get going. I tripped over the tangle of ropes on the floor, grabbed the chair to catch my balance, then followed him out of the green and yellow hallway. He turned and began running down the hall. As I started to follow, he became a blue and red blur of light and then vanished. It's got dino legs. That's what it says. Dino spelled with a Y, but that's what it says. But I'll be more impressed if he does have dinosaur legs. Probably like a Rex from Toy Story. Legs like that. Because that's how I imagine a gazelle's legs to look like. A few seconds later, he came jogging back. Sorry, too fast for you? He called. I nodded a little. He rested a gloved hand heavily on my shoulder. His grey eyes peered at me solemnly through the slits in his mask. Do you have a wall climbing abilities? He demanded. I shook my head. No, sorry. Okay, we'll take the stairs, he said. He grabbed my hand and pulled me down the hall. He moved so fast, both of my feet were in the air. I guess it was impossible for him to go slow. The wall was well past in a bright green blur. He pulled me behind a corner, then another corner. I felt as if I were flying. We were moving so fast I didn't have time to breathe, and I was suffocated in the end. All right, fine. Around another corner, through an open doorway. The doorway led to a flight of steep, dark stairs. I peered up to the top, but I could see only heavy blackness. I expected the galloping gazelle to pull me up the stairs, but to my surprise, he stopped just past the doorway. He narrowed his eyes at the stairs. There is a disintegrator ray here, he announced, rubbing his jaw square thoughtfully. Pretend my jaw square. A what? I decided. I cried. A disintegrator ray, he repeated, his eyes locked on the stairs. If you step into it, it will disintegrate you in 1/100th of a second. I swallowed hard. My whole body started to tremble. Do you think you could jump the first 2 steps? The Gallican Gazelle asked. You mean? I started. Land on the 3rd step, he instructed. Get a good running start. I'll need it, I thought, staring at the steep steps. I suddenly wish I hadn't eaten so many Pop-Tarts and bowls of Frosted Flakes for breakfast every morning. I wish I did. Yeah. If only I were a little slimmer, a little lighter. Get a good running start and make sure you clear the first 2 steps, the Galloping Gazelle warned. Land on the 3rd step and keep moving. If you land on the 1st or 2nd step, you'll disintegrate. He motioned with his fingers. Poof. I let out a loud, frightened moan. I couldn't help myself. I wanted to be brave. Moan? But my body wasn't cooperating. I was shaking and quaking as if I were made of jello. That's a very good way to get your headset dislodged. I'll go first, the superhero said. He turned to the stairs, bent his knees, stretched both hands forward, and leapt over the invisible disintegrator ray. He landed on the 5th step. The 5th one? That's not very superhero-y, is it? Thought you'd ban the entire staircase at least. Honestly. He turned around and motioned me to follow. See? It's easy, he said brightly. Easy for you, I thought darkly. Some of us don't have dino legs. Hurry, he urged. If you start to think about it, you won't be able to do it. I'm already thinking about it, I thought. How can I not think about it? I'm not very athletic, I murmured in a tiny, trembling voice. What an understatement. Whenever the kids I know play my sports, I'm always the last kid to be chosen for a team. Hurry, the Galloping Gazelle urged. He reached out both hands. Take a good running jump, kid. Aim for the 3rd step. It isn't that high. I'll catch you. The 3rd step looked about a mile in the air to me, but I held my breath, bent my knees, took a running leap, my best leap, and landed with a hard thud on the 1st step. The end. Okay, no, not really. Chapter 21. I screamed and clamped my eyes shut as the disintegrator ray poured through me and my body crumbled into thin air. Actually, I didn't feel anything. I opened my eyes to find myself still standing on the bottom step, still in one chubby piece. I stammered. I guess he doesn't have it turned on, the Galloping Gazelle said calmly. Smiled at me through the mask. You got a break, kid. I was still trembling. Cold beads of sweat rolled down my forehead. I couldn't speak. I nearly died. I hope your luck holds out, Galloping Gazelle murmured. He turned and started up the stairs, his cape floating behind him. No capes. Come on, let's go meet our destiny. I didn't like the sound of that. Not one bit. Who is Destiny? Why is she here? But I didn't like anything that was going on. The Galloping Gazelle said I was lucky, but I certainly didn't feel lucky as I followed him up the dark stairs. At the top landing, he pushed open a wide metal door, and we stepped into an amazing room. The room glowed with colour. It was decorated like an office, the fanciest, most luxurious office I have ever seen. A bit like my office at work. The shaggy white carpet was so soft and so thick, I sank into it nearly to my ankles. Silky blue curtains were draped over the enormous windows that overlooked the town. Sparkly crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. Velvety couches were covered, and chairs were arranged around dark walled tables. One wall was covered with head-to-ceiling bookshelves, each shelf filled with leather-covered books to match his leather-covered pants. Black Books reference. Go. A giant TV screen, dark, stood in one corner beside it. A wall of electronic equipment. Enormous oil paintings of green farm fields covered one wall. A shiny gold-plated desk stood in the middle of the room. The tall desk chair behind it looked more like a throne than a chair. Wow, I crowed, lingering near my door, my eyes taking on the splendour of the vast room. He treats himself nice, the Galloping Gazelle commented. But his time is over. You mean? I started. I'm too fast for him, the superhero boasted. I run circles around him, faster and faster, until I become a raging tornado. He'll be swept away forever. Well, I repeated. I didn't know what else to say, without sounding sarcastic. He caught me napping before, the Galloping Gazelle continued. That's the only way he can catch me, when I'm asleep. Otherwise, I'm much too fast for him. Too fast for anybody. Know how fast I run the 100? How fast? I asked. I run it in 1/10 of a second. That would be an Olympic record, but I won't let me in the Olympics because I'm a mutant. I started to follow the galloping gazelle to the center of the room, but I stopped when I heard the laughter. The same cold laughter I had heard in the lobby. I froze in fright and stared at the gold desk and began to move and change. The shiny gold shimmered as it shifted and bent, raising itself up and forming a human figure. I took a step back, trying to hide behind the galloping gazelle as the desk melted away and the masked mutant rose up into his desk. What? Rose up into his place, not in his desk. He rose up from being a desk. Oh, God. His dark eyes burned menacing through the slits in his mask. He was a lot taller than he appeared in the comic, and a lot more powerful looking, and a lot scarier. Hate book. He raised a fist at the galloping gazelle. You dare to invade my private office? He demanded. Say goodbye to ill-gotten splendor, the galloping gazelle told the mutant. Say goodbye to you, the masked mutant shot back, spitting the words angrily. He turned his frightening cold eyes at me. I'll handle you easily, gazelle, the world's most evil mutant said softly. But first, watch me destroy the kid. It's a discount Skeletor voice going on here. So, yeah, we're nearly 100 pages in. The titular mutant is only now attacking. God damn. We've got like 20 pages left. Better make it worth it. Chapter 22. I shrank back as the masked mutant was stepped towards me, his fist still raised. His black eyes glared furiously into mine. My heart pounding, I turned and frantically searched for a hiding place, but there was nowhere to hide. I couldn't make room for. What an entrance! Yes, it was a desk. Oh, it was a hell of an entrance. I couldn't make a run for it. The door slammed shut as the masked mutant moved closer. Whoa! I cried. I raised both hands in front of me as if shielding myself. I couldn't bear to see his cold, cruel eyes glaring at me as he approached. He's going to destroy me, I thought, but I don't have to watch. And then, as the masked mutant took one more step, the galloping gazelle moved to block his way. You'll deal with me, mutant, he declared in his booming voice. If you want the kid, you'll have to take me out first. No problem, the masked mutant declared softly. But his expression changed as the galloping gazelle began to circle him, faster and faster, until the gazelle appeared to disappear within a whirling, speeding tornado of blue and red. The gazelle is carrying out his plan, I realized. And as I backed up to the wall, he's going to run faster and faster around the masked mutant until he creates a whirlwind that will blow the evil mutant away. Please do not blow the evil mutant. This is a children's book. You wouldn't have thought that with how dirty it's been so far. Pressing my back against the wall, or chair in this case, I watched the amazing battle eagerly. The galloping gazelle whirled faster, faster, twirling towards freedom. So fast, a powerful whirlwind swept over the room, slapping the curtains, toppling over the vase of flowers. Why has the evil villain got a vase of flowers? Sending books flying from the shelves. Yes, I thought happily, shooting both fists into the air. Yes, we win! We win! I lowered my hands to let out a horrified groan when I saw the masked mutant carefully stick his foot out. Captain Gazelle tripped over the foot. What a shit way to take him out. Oh, he's running this out. I'll just stick my foot out. A small trip, my only weakness. The galloping gazelle tripped over the foot and slammed face down to the floor with a shattering thud. He bounced hard a couple of times and then lay still. The wind stopped. The curtains fell back in place. The masked mutant stood over a fallen superhero and triumphantly on the waist of his super costume. Get up, I screamed without even realizing I was doing it. Get up, gazelle, please! The gazelle groaned but didn't move. Dinner time! Sneered the masked mutant. My back pressed hard against the wall, I stared. In horror as the mutant began to change again. His face twisted and appeared to flatten. His body lowered and then leaned forward, spreading his hands on the floor. He stepped forward as a snarling leopard, tilting his head to one side. The leopard uttered a ferocious growl of attack. Rawr. It arched its back, tensed its back legs, next to the sprawled body of the gazelle. There's too many G's in this sentence. Sprawled body of the galloping gazelle. Get up, gazelle! I shrieked as the leopard attacked. The masked mutant clawed and gnawed at the helpless gazelle. Get up, I screamed. To my shout, the galloping gazelle opened his eyes. The ferocious leopard ripped away from the bottom of the gazelle's mask with its teeth. The galloping gazelle rolled out from under the enormous beast and scrambled to his feet. With a roar, the leopard swiped his paws, sending a long tear down the length of the gazelle's cape. Ow, I'm out of here, the gazelle cried. making tracks at the door. He turned to me. "You're on your own, kid." "No, wait," I screamed. Man, the gazelle's a dick. I don't think the gazelle held me. He shoved open the door with one shoulder and vanished. The door slammed behind him. Quickly, the leopard changed, rising up on its hind legs, its body shifting and moving, until the masked mutant stepped forward. He smiled at me as he approached, a cold, menacing smile. "You're on your own, kid," he said softly. So far, the biggest attack he has done is sticking his foot out. That's the most evil supervillain thing he's ever done. What a bastard. Actually, I'm going to have a quick sippy. I hope you're enjoying the book, guys. We've got 7 chapters to go. I hope you are having a grand old time. Stay hydrated, kids. Hit him! Chapter 23. I edged along the wall as the masked mutant moved slowly, steadily towards me. I know I couldn't get to the door. As a galloping gazelle had, I wasn't fast enough. He should call himself the Galloping Chicken, I thought bitterly. Oh, sick burn. What he did to be the most evil supervillain, apart from stick his foot out and trip someone over, I don't know. He's not done much, has he? How could he save his own skin and leave me here like this? I couldn't run. I couldn't fight. What could I do? What could I do against a deadly foe who would turn himself into anything solid? The masked mutant stopped in the center of the room, hands on his waist, his dark eyes twinkling. Yes. He was enjoying my fright and already tasting his victory. "What are your superpowers, kid?" he demanded, a sneer in his voice. Huh? A question caught me by surprise. "What are your superpowers?" he repeated impatiently, swirling his cape behind him. "Do you shrink down to a tiny bug? Is that your secret?" Huh? Shrink? Me? I was shaking so hard, I couldn't think straight. Then think gay. Why was he asking me these questions? "Do you burst into flames?" he continued, moving closer. "Is that your power? Are you magnetic? Are you a mind fucker?" His voice turned angry. "What is it, kid? Answer me! What is your power?" I don't have any powers," I stammered. "If I press any harder into the wall, I become part of the wallpaper." The masked harder laughed. The masked harder? What the fuck? The masked mutant laughed. "So you won't tell me, huh? Okay, have it your way." His smile faded. His dark eyes turned cold and hard. "I was just trying to make it easy on you," he said, moving even closer. "I want to destroy you in the easiest way possible." "Oh, I see," I muttered. My eye caught something on the shelf, a large smooth stone as big as a coconut. It was some kind of decoration. I wondered if it would make a good weapon. I heard mind fogger. Although, we won't put it past this book. Mindfuckers. Mindfucker! That's a great name for a superhero, and why isn't it a thing? I would read that. Mindfucker! I can see that being played by Jack Black. Okay. What are we on? Something about a lovely bunch of coconuts. "So, bye-bye, kid," he said through clenched teeth. He came toward me quickly. As he moved, I grabbed a big stone off the shelf. It was a lot heavier than I thought. It wasn't stone, I realized. It was shaped like a stone, but it was made of solid steel. I hoisted it up and took careful aim. Then I heaved it at the masked mutant's head. And missed. The stone thudded heavily onto the carcass. "Nice try," I muttered. I moved quickly to destroy me. Actually, yeah, R.L Stine was played by Jack Black, wasn't he? So I see what he's doing. He's trying to write his own superheroes. Chapter 24. Man, his chapters are barreling through. It's like a couple of. It's doing like it did in Coca-Cola, where the chapters are only like a page and a half long. There's no reason why this can't be one chapter, really. I tried to duck away from him, but he was too quick. His powerful hands grabbed me around the waist and lifted me off the floor. Higher, higher. I realized as he was moving his molecules, making his arms stretch until he had lifted me above the chandelier. I thrashed my arms and legs and tried to squirm away, but he was too strong. Higher, higher, until my head banged hard against the ceiling, at least 20 feet above the floor. "Happy landings!" the masked mutant cried gleefully as he prepared to drop me and send me plummeting to my doom. But before he could drop me, I heard the door swing open. The masked mutant heard it too. Holding me suspended in the air, he turned to see who had entered. "You!" he cried in surprise. High above the floor, I squirmed around and bent my head to see through the chandelier. The light sparkled for the crystals, making it impossible to see. How dare you burst in here? The Masked Mutant cried into the intruder. He lowered me a little, just enough to see the doorway. Libby, I cried. What are you doing here? Yeah, chapter 24. That's it. It doesn't need 30 chapters. Just have less chapters, but more content. Honestly. Chapter 25. The Masked Mutant lowered me to the floor and turned to face Libby. My legs were wobbling so badly I had to grab onto the bookshelves to hold myself up. Libby, get out of here! Get away! I tried to warn her. But she stormed into her room, her red hair flying behind her. She had her eyes on me and completely ignored the Masked Mutant. Doesn't she know that he is the most evil supervillain in the universe? Skipper, didn't you hear me calling you? Libby demanded sharply. Huh? Libby? I was across the street, she said. I saw you going into this building. I called to you. I didn't hear you, I stammered. Listen, you better get out of here, Libby. I've been searching and searching for you, she continued, ignoring my warning. Ignoring my frantic gestures. But what are you doing in here, Skipper? I really can't talk right now, I replied, pointing to the Masked Mutant. He stood impatiently, hands at his waist, tapping his boot on the carpet. I see that I will have to destroy you both, he said quietly. Libby spun around. He seemed to notice the supervillain for the first time. Skipper, am I leaving now? She said with a sneer. I guess. Didn't she know who she's talking to? No, of course she didn't know. She only reads high school Harry and Beanhead comics. She has no idea how much danger we are, I realized. I'm sorry, the Masked Mutant replied, sneering back at Libby from under his mask. You are not leaving. In fact, you are never leaving this building again. Libby glared back at him and saw her expression change. Her green eyes grew wide and her mouth dropped open. She took a step back till she stood beside me. We have to do something, she whispered. Oh, duh. Do something? What could we do against the monstrous mega mutant? I swallowed hard. No, that's the wrong thing to do in this situation, I'm afraid. I couldn't think of how to answer her. The Masked Mutant tossed back his cape and took a step towards us. Which one of you wants to go first? He demanded softly. I turned and saw that Libby had backed up to the bookshelves. She pulled a yellow plastic toy gun from her backpack. Libby, what are you doing? I whispered. That's just a toy. I know, she whispered back. But this is a comic book, right? It can't be real. So if it's a comic book, we can do anything. Is this going to take the ending from Space Jam? She raised a plastic toy pistol and aimed it at the Masked Mutant. He let out a cold laugh. What do you plan to do with that toy? He asked scornfully. It only looks like a toy, Libby stammered. It's a molecule mazer. Leave this room or I'll melt all your molecules. The mutant's smile grew weirder. Nice try, he said, flashing 2 rows of perfect white teeth. She's going to shoot him. It looks like it. You know, for kids. Libby held the toy gun in front of her with both hands. She gritted her teeth, preparing to pull the trigger. Do you feel lucky, punk? Hey, Empire. Thanks for the best, my friend. Put that toy down. I can't help you, the Masked Mutant declared, moving closer. I'm not kidding, Libby insisted in a short voice. She'll do it, man. She's crazy. This isn't a toy. It really is a molecule melter. The Masked Mutant laughed again and took another step closer. Then another step. Libby aimed the gun at the mutant's chest. She pulled the trigger. A high-pitched whistle burst out of the gun. The Masked Mutant took another step closer. Then another. Chapter 26. Libby lowered the plastic gun. We both stared in horror as the Masked Mutant came nearer. One more step, then stopped. A bright white circle. A bright light. Oh, there. Okay, after an egg in his trying time. I think the characters in this book could do with an egg in his trying time. Empire. They're a bit fucked. Okay, he took one more step, then another. A bright light circled his body. The light became a crackling electrical current. The mutant uttered a low moan. Then he began to melt. His head melted down into his mask, tinier and tinier, until it disappeared completely. Shit, Libby killed the shit out of him. The empty mask slumped onto the shoulders of the costume, and then the rest of his body melted away. Oh, what a world, what a world. Shrinking until there was nothing left but a wrinkled costume and cape heaped onto the carpet. Libby and I stood staring down at the costume in silence. It worked! I finally managed to choke out. The toy gun! It worked, Libby! Of course, she replied, with surprising calm. She walked over to the empty costume and kicked it with her sneaker. Of course it worked. I warned him it was a molecule melting. He wouldn't listen. My brain was doing flip-flops. It didn't really understand. It was just a toy pistol. Why did it destroy the mightiest mutant on Earth? Let's get out of here, I pleaded, starting towards the door. Libby moved to block my path. I'm sorry, Skipper, she said softly. Sorry? What do you mean? She raised the plastic pistol and aimed it at me. I'm sorry, she said, because you're disappearing next. Dun dun. Flop. Chapter 27. At first I thought Libby was joking. Libby, put down the gun, I told her. You have a sick sense of humour, said the complete weirdo. What a twist. She kept the plastic gun aimed at my chest. I let out a feeble laugh. But I quickly cut it short when I saw the hard expression on her face. Libby, what's your problem? I demanded. I'm not Libby, she replied softly. I hate to break the news to you, Skipper, but there is no Libby. As she said those words, she began to change. Her red hair slid into her head. Okay. Her cheeks grew wider. Her nose lengthened. Her eyes changed from green to black. She stretched up, growing taller. Muscles bulged on her skinny arms. And as she grew, her clothing changed too. Her jeans and t-shirt appeared to melt away, replaced by a familiar-looking design. I was taking a piss out of being it. Yeah, it does, really, doesn't it? The shit. The costume of the Masked Mutant. Libby, what's going on? I cried in a tiny, frightened voice. I still don't understand. How are you doing that? She shook her head. You don't catch on very fast, do you? She said, rolling her eyes. Her voice came out deep and booming. A man's voice. Libby, She swept her cape behind her. I'm the Masked Mutant, Skipper. I changed my medicals into a young girl your age and called myself Libby. But I'm the Masked Mutant. But, I spluttered. It's got butts on the brain. She tossed the toy gun aside and grinned at me triumphantly. But you just melted the Masked Mutant, I cried. We both saw him melt. She shook her head. No, you're mistaken. I just melted the magnificent molecule man. Then why did he attack you? I gazed at her in amazement. Huh? Molecule man? He went for me, she explained, glancing down at the crumpled, empty costume on the floor. Sometimes I ordered him to dress like me, to keep people off my track. He went for you, and you melted him? I cried. I'm a villain, replied smiling. I do very bad things. Remember? This is great. It's so gripping. It's the best comic I've ever read. It's not even a comic. It all started to come clear. There was never a Libby. It had been the Masked Mutant all along. The Masked Mutant stepped over the crumpled costume to move closer to me. Once again, I pressed my back against the wall. Now, I have a choice. I have no choice. Now I have to do something very bad to you, Skipper. Oh, read the wrong voice. He said flatly, his black eyes staring hard into mine through his mask. But why? I cried. Why can't I just leave? I'll go straight home. I'll never tell anyone about you. Really? I pleaded. He shook his head. I can't let you leave. You belong here now. Yeah, I guess. What are you saying, Libby? I mean, mutant. You belong here now, Skipper, he replied coldly. I knew it when you first saw you on the bus the first time. I knew you were perfect when you told me you knew everything about my comics. But, I spluttered. It's so hard to find good characters for my stories, Skipper. It's so hard to find good foes. I'm always looking for new faces. That's why I was so pleased when I discovered you. His evil grin grew wider. Then, when you recognized my headquarters building, I knew you were right. I knew you were ready to star in a story. What about everyone else that read the comic? The files made it quickly. I'm so sorry, Skipper, but the story is over. Your part has come to an end. What are you going to do? I stammered. Destroy you, of course, the mutant replied coldly. I pressed my back against the wall. How many times did he press his back against the wall? That's 3 times. You don't need to stay. Oh, forget it. I stared back at him, thinking hard. Goodbye, Skipper, the Masked Mutant said softly. But you can't do this, I screamed. You're just a character in a comic book. But I'm real. I'm a real live person. I'm a real boy. And then he turned into Pinocchio. I don't know how to break this to you, Skipper, but you are actually a character in a fictional book. About fictional books, so if anything, you're even more fictional. Sorry, mate. A strange smile formed on the mutant's lip. No, you're not, Skipper, he said, snickering. You're not real. You're just like me now. You're a comic book character too. How's it going to end, guys? Got 2 chapters left. Chapter 28. I pinched my arm. Ow. It felt as warm and real as always. You're a liar, I shouted. The masked mutant nodded. A pleased smile formed on his face. Yes, I'm a liar, he agreed. That's one of my better qualities. His smile faded. But I'm not lying this time, Skipper. You're not real anymore. I refused to believe him. I feel the way I always have, I declared. But I changed you into a comic book character, he insisted. Remember when you entered the building for the first time? Remember when you walked through the glass door and a beam of light passed over you? I nodded. Yes, I remember that, I muttered. Well, that was a scanner, the masked mutant continued. When you stepped through it, it scanned your body. It turned you into tiny dots of ink. No, I shouted. No. He ignored my cry. That's all you are there, Skipper. Tiny dots of red, blue, and yellow ink. You're a comic book character. Just like me. That was a really crap Doctor Doom impression. Not Doctor Doom. Judge Doom. Fuck, I don't even know we own films. He slid towards me menacingly, his cape spreading out behind him. But I'm sorry to say you've made your last appearance in my comic book, or in any comic book. Wait, I cried. I can't wait any longer, the masked mutant replied coldly. I've already wasted so much time on you, Skippy. But I'm not Skipper, I declared. I'm not Skipper Matthews, I said. There is no Skipper Matthews. Oh, really? He asked, rolling his eyes. Then who are you? I'm the Colossal Elastic Boy, I replied. 29. The masked mutant uttered a low gasp. Elastic Boy, he exclaimed. I thought you looked familiar. Goodbye, mutants, I said in a deep voice. Where are you going? He asked sharply. Back to my home planet Zargos, I replied, starting towards the door. I'm not allowed to guest star in other comic books. It's getting weird. He moved quickly to block the door. Nice try, Elastic Boy, he said. But you have invaded my secret headquarters. I have to destroy you. I laughed. You can't destroy Elastic Boy, I boasted. I'll stretch off my elastic arms and wrap you in them, and squeeze you into Play-Doh. I don't think so, the masked mutant replied dryly. He let out an angry growl. I'm tired of all this talk. I'm going to tear you into pieces, and then tear your pieces into tiny pieces. I laughed again. No way, I told him. I'm elastic, remember? I can't be torn into pieces. I bend, but I don't break. There is only one way that Elastic Boy can be destroyed. What's that? The masked mutant asked. By sulfuric acid, I replied. That's the only thing that can destroy my elastic body. A pleased smile spread across behind the masked face. Oops, I cried. I didn't mean to let that slip. You fucking idiot. I tried to make it to the door, but it wasn't fast enough. I saw the masked mutant quickly began to change. He changed into a steaming hot wave of sulfuric acid, and before I could move, the tall wave of acid swept towards me. If this still turns out to be a dream, this book can get in the bin. Chapter 30. Is this the final chapter? Yes, the final 3 pages left, guys. Are we ready? Are we ready for the ending of the century? Bloody better be good. With a loud cry, I leapt away. The tall wave swept past. It missed me by inches. I turned and watched it splash over the carpet. The carpet began to sizzle and burn. Yes, I shouted gleefully. Yes! I had never felt so happy, so strong, so triumphant. I had defeated the masked mutant. I had totally tricked him. I had destroyed the most evil supervillain ever to walk the planet. Me, a 12-year-old boy named Skipper Matthews. I had sent the masked mutant to his doom. Such a simple trick, but it had worked. From reading the comics, I knew that the masked mutant could change his molecules into anything solid and then change back again. But I tricked him into changing himself into liquid. And once he changed into liquid, he could not reform himself. Shouldn't he already know that? Just can't get good supervillains nowadays. The masked mutant was gone forever. Skipper, you are such a clever guy, I shouted out loud to myself. I was so happy I did a little dance on the thick carpet. I couldn't believe the masked mutant had believed that I was Elastic Boy. I made that name up. I've never heard of any Elastic Boy. But he fell for it. And now the evil supervillain's gone, I thought happily. I am alive. Alive! I couldn't wait to get home and see my family again. The bus ride seemed to take hours. Finally, I was running up the front lawn. into the house through the front door. I immediately saw a brown envelope lying on the mail table. The new issue of the Masked Mutant. Who needs it? I asked myself. I ignored it and hurried to say hi to my parents. I was so glad to be home. I was even happy to see Mitzi. Mitzi, how about a game of frisbee? I asked.
Eh?
She gazed at me in shock. I never wanted to play anything with my little sister, but today I was as happy to be celebrated and alive. Mitzi and I hurried out to the backyard. We threw a frisbee around for about an hour. We had a great time. How about a snack? I asked her.
Yeah, I'm starving.
She replied.
Mum left some chocolate cake on the counter.
Chocolate cake sounded just right. Humming happily to myself, I trotted into the kitchen. I pulled down 2 plates from the cabinet. Then I found the big cake knife in the drawer. Don't play with knives, kids.
Don't make your slice bigger than mine,
Mitzi warned, watching me carefully as I prepared to cut the cake. Mitzi, I promise I won't cheat you, I said, sweetly. I was in such a good mood. Even Mitzi couldn't get me upset. This looks like an awesome chocolate cake, I exclaimed. I slid the big knife over the cake. It slipped. Ow! I cried as the knife blade cut into the back of my hand. I raised my hand and stared down at the cut. Hey, I chortled in response. What was trickling out of the cut? Not blood. It was red, blue, yellow, and black. Ink!
Cool,
Mitzi said. Where's that new Masked Mutant comic? I asked. I suddenly had the feeling that my comic book career wasn't over. Oh, that's it. I thought there was one more page and it's blank. Oh, that's it then. Let's read that last part again, but a bit more dramatically.
Cool,
Mitzi said. Where's that new Masked Mutant comic? I said. I suddenly had the feeling that my comic book career wasn't over. Insert your own ending here. Well, yes, that was a very sudden ending, wasn't it? Would you like even more blank pages after that? This book's full of them. You can write your own novel. Well, that was The Masked Mutant. Da-da-da-da. In fact, the attack of the mutant didn't actually do any attacking until like the last 20 pages. And even then, all he really did is stand around and threaten. All he did was trip over the gazelle. And he pissed off. So what was the point in building up? Okay, let's throw that one. What was the point in building up like this? The League of Good Guys and all 6 of them, if only one of them appeared in the entire book. There's no mention of the other 5 at all. Unless Sponge Life, but I don't think they said Sponge Life as part of these 6. He was just a superhero. Suddenly he started pissing into the floor and spent the rest of his days in monochrome. Yeah, yes he did. And then he bled to death, but from ink. And that's that. So, that was that. So welcome. Sorry you didn't get your newt, but sound alerts are off. It's there at the top of the screen. It's been there. It's there. No, point the right way. It's there. It's there. It's been there the entire stream, and nobody seems to read it. The amount of innuendo quiz towards the end. So yes, it did. It did. Massively dropped off, didn't it? It was so rude to start, and then as it went on, that were it. So that was that. It's tinny. I didn't see it. Same as last time. It was still awesome. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm very, very glad you enjoyed my reading of that book. So, I'm going to have to do this again because this is proving quite popular. We're getting more follows. So, we are going to raid out to someone. I know it's a little earlier than I normally finish, but hey, the book's done. I'm sure there's going to be someone on. So, what book is next? I don't know. I will have to have a look. But before I go, I just want to say thank you very much for Queen for the 2 subs, Tiki for the 100 bits, Ghostwalk for the follow, and yeah, I hope you've had a great time. More bedtime stories. They will be in the near future. I don't know when. It'll just be as and when because I've got to fit it around everything else. But rest assured, tomorrow afternoon, let's say 12, I will be back with Pokemon Fire Red with only fire types. Where we've nearly done it. We've got to the Elite Four and they kicked our ass. So we are going to do a little bit of side stuff to get up the runtime. I say pad out the runtime, but we might still fail on the Elite Four. But we shall see how we go. Who is on? Fiki is on, so we're going to raid over to her. She's playing Vengeful Heart. So let's say hi. And thank you very much for watching, guys. You have a great evening now. And I will see you tomorrow afternoon, if not before. have a great weekend if I don't catch you. Spanky V's future. Yes, it's going to happen. Take care, guys. And this is going to be on YouTube, so look out for that. You can watch this over and over again to your heart's content. Bye!